Accept and ignore, just kicking down all the doors. Guarantee you, boy, if I ask for it, it's gotta be real big. I gotta make it just for my kids and for their kids, just kids. That's wealth years and years. Promise my brother soon as he out and finish this bid, we finna do it bigger than anybody ever did. The odds is real big, jobs that's real big. Satan trying a little, my God is real big. Stayed up on the ground and the cards is real big. I gotta do it big, the only way that I can live. Accept and ignore, just kicking down all the doors.
Hello everybody and welcome to the HyperX GT Sprint Series here from Oulton Park. It is round 3 of the fall season, 6th round championship we have before the end of 2021. 2 entertaining rounds so far at the Hungaroring and Barber Motorsports Park, but we head across the pond to Oulton Park now, where we've got a fantastic couple of races lined up. 2 one-hour affairs with GT3 cars, Pro-Am and Am categories, all to look forward to, and some great racing here once again. As always, we see in IVRA competition. My name is Ewan O'Leary alongside Nolan Rempel for this race here today. We were here 2 weeks ago, and I have to say, Nolan, it's fast becoming my favourite event of the week because I really enjoyed the couple of races at Barber. They had everything really. A lot of drama were packed within them, and I can only expect more of the same here this week.
And of course, you look over the Barber Motorsports Park, right, and how difficult passing was there. And if they were able to make passes left and right over the Barber Motorsports Park, we can expect them to make quite a few of them here at Oulton Park. Arguably, this is one of the more difficult and technical tracks we're going to be visiting all season long. And through the forest of Great Britain, it should be a very fun race up ahead of us in just a few moments' time.
Absolutely. We have removed the first of the 2 chicanes on the back straight just to make that overtaking a little bit easier, but as you mentioned, I don't think we're going to have too much trouble in terms of the overtaking because this is the HyperX GT Sprint Series after all. And talking of the other tracks which are coming up over the next few weeks before we round off it all, before the end of 2021, here we've got the Streets of Belle Isle to head back to in a couple of weeks' time. Then we'll be heading back to the British Isles for Brands Hatch at the penultimate round, and to Canada for the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve to end off the fall season, and then we do it all again in the new year leading up to May, where we have a finale at Bathurst, which I'm mightily looking forward to over in 2022 as well. So that's all to look forward to in the future, but in the here and now it is Oulton Park here today. We've also got championship standings which have really hotted up over the last few weeks. Maniti Racing, Pure Sims Esports and 5-Star Motorsport are all very, very close in the championship standings here now. It's setting itself up very, very well.
Only 11 points separate your top 3 teams, and that means it is going to be all to play for here at Oulton Park. Of course, the big story today would, of course, be Maniti Racing. They, of course, won both races at the Hungaroring. That was not the case in the Barber Motorsports Park, coming away with less than 100 out of the 200 total points you're able to score in one race weekend over Barber Motorsports Park. So they have put themselves in a bit of a precarious position, just 7 points back to the Pure Sims Esports team, who has had a very strong outing at Barber a few weeks ago, and they're looking to potentially capitalize on that and maybe take a points lead away at Oulton Park.
And 5-Star Motorsport, of course, having been just consistent in both of those races. They've not really been flashing themselves up towards the front at any point. I don't think they've been on the podium many times, if any, but they have been collecting points consistently, and that's exactly what you need to do. That's got them in 3rd place with the 68 car that did so well last 2 weeks ago. RSR by Primus in 4th position at the moment. Of course, we do indeed have Pro-Am and Am categories to kind of focus on as well, but especially in Pro-Am, it's not quite as close as it is in Pro, because Project Dynamic have been absolutely wonderful so far. Because our Sim Racing have been doing their best, but there's been no answer to the 21 Lamborghini.
both races, they have won both events that we have gone out so far, so that is now a total of 4 victories for them, back to back to back to back on the season, with a total of 400 points, the highest out of any team so far here in the HyperX GT Sprint Series. So Project Dynamo looks set to potentially run away with the points lead here. It's 97 points back to the Quasar Sim Racing number 26 Porsche 911 GT3, so it's going to be quite the ask for Quasar to try to close in that gap with over 100 points back to the third place driver VC Sim Racing for the points leader.
That is a very big margin, but still 4 races for them to try and get something back from them at this point. And finally, the AM category with Westwood Racing Esports, who are leading that one ahead of World Sim Racing by 28 points, and then VSTV Esports 53 points back in third position. So that particular category is fairly close as well, and we'll try and keep on top of all of that as we complete the remaining 4 races of this championship. Practice is just about to end then, and we're about to head into qualifying in the next few moments' time. Looks like No Nonsense Racing, Ronin Academy, Olympus Esports, Team RSO and 5-Star Motorsport are going to make their way into Q2 straight away. The top 5 from practice get into the top 15 of Q2 without having to go through the first part of qualifying, and that's what they've just earned themselves. We're going to get ourselves underway in Q1, but before the main times come in, I think it's time to do a little bit of housekeeping because we've got, of course, the Easter egg competition that is ongoing throughout this season here in the HyperX GT Sprint Series. We've had a couple of weeks so far, and don't forget at the end of the championship there'll be kind of a form to fill in with all the Easter eggs from all the races, so that you can win basically. But this is the image we'll try and get up for you in the next few moments of the image that you're looking out for here tonight. There you are, so keep your eyes peeled over the broadcast this afternoon for to see if you can spot it, and so on and so forth. So you can fill that in at the end of the season and hopefully win, as I say. But we are in qualifying right now. If you don't know how this works, I'll quickly remind you in case you've not been with us for the first couple of races this season. We've got our first part of qualifying, which is 15 minutes long. We take the top 10 from that session and the top 5 from the previous practice session we've just had for a final 15-minute shootout here for the top 15 positions in the race. But I always don't know if getting the top 5 in practice is actually a good idea, because I feel like you miss out on a lot of kind of track evolution, and you don't quite stay with the you don't quite adapt your driving with the track. So I'm not entirely sure if those 5 who are already through are going to have a massive advantage here, but we'll wait and see how this qualifying plays out. There's not going to be a lot of space here, I know that for sure.
And the track is only like 2 or 3 lanes wide, right? I mean, there's so few places where you can actually go for a proper launch. I would say the best places we'll be seeing the move is up into that final hairpin just at the end. I believe that's the Druids corner. Then, of course, up into potentially the chicane, the chicane that is at the very end of that long straight, right before Knickerbrook, with that first chicane being removed. And of course could mean we could see a couple of wild overtakes up into that chicane, with that being now the longest straight we'll have on the track so far.
Absolutely, and this may well end up being the best overtaking opportunity of them all into Hislops, which is technically just the left-hander of that, but the right-hander at turn 10 doesn't really have a name, so we'll just go for it. But it's a wonderfully flowing circuit. That's the only real clumsy moment of this track, with one of the chicanes removed. That chicane is a little bit clumsy, I will admit, but the rest of it very nicely flowing indeed. The crest over the right-hander there at Drury's, you could just see, was very, very excited to drive here, and you're going to plunge downhill, then back upwards again towards the line. It's got a lot of elevation change, this circuit, and it's very, very entertaining indeed. But the first times are now going to present themselves to us, and hopefully we can get a handle on who's going to be progressing here inside the top 10. For the moment, Team RSO by 5-star and Max Riemüller getting off to a good start, but Impulse Racing now go to the front after a disastrous round 2 weeks ago. They had 3 cars and all 3 of them struck really bad luck throughout.
And so they are definitely going to be looking to see if they can potentially work their way further up through the grid today. See if maybe Impulse Racing can come away with some better luck here from Oulton Park. You're right on board with the Kozar Sim Racing Virgo machine driven by Isaac Barclay at the moment. The number 27 car, going to see what he can do in that Porsche 911 GT3R. Currently on the second hot lap here. And their first lap of qualifying here, even was, of course, invalidated, had a bit of an off somewhere on the circuit, which, of course, means they're going to reset and potentially try it again.
This is the AM version of the Kozar Sim Racing team. They've got three cars, three Porsches on the grid here, and this is the AM version of that. Currently 4th place in the AM Championship, going through Druids, turn 15. We'll be over the crest and under the bridge here in a few hours' time. It's very difficult to judge, though, since you're hitting the throttle there, trying to exit the corner, but you can't actually see the exit of the corner yet, so dipping a wheel onto the outside there is very, very easy to do. We're going to see a lot of that throughout the day. Hopefully, don't see them dipping a wheel onto the grass and spinning to the inside wall, which often does happen through there.
You see Isaac Barclay puts in a 128.478, but that is only good enough for about 11th place on the grid, as Pure Sims Esports machine is going to go top of the time boards for them over the 116, up on pole position by about 25 thousandths of a second. This is great for the 116 currently coming into this race. We talk about 7 points behind Medici Racing at the moment, who is all the way down in 3rd at the moment, so they are looking good, potentially gap and or at least shrink down that points lead, coming on over potentially into the second race of the day. Medici Racing now goes back to the top, though, to take their pole back.
Going to be a real ding-dong battle over the next 10 minutes or so as we're on board with the 69 car, 5th place in the championship at the moment. Brandon Roseborough going over the line right now, but it doesn't look like... Oh, there is a time. 4th place for the BMW. Which wasn't one of the cars to receive a little bit of extra balance. There has been a bit of a balance of performance adjustment since the last round. We've got 11 kilograms more on the Audi. We've got a 4 kilogram adjustment to the Lamborghini and a 7 kilogram addition to the Porsche that we have seen, but we've been reliably informed that it won't be completely game-changing, this balance of performance adjustment, but I guess one tiny extra thing for them to have been figuring out over the last 2 weeks.
It's just those little changes, though. They can kind of mess up your rhythm a little bit. You always have to take that into account, don't you, when you're in these major sessions such as this one. And I mean, a lot of drivers opted to pull their cars back down to pit road, potentially reset and try it again. There you can see one of the Ferraris working its way around from the AM class. That is the Team Oblivion Racing machine of the 164, currently driven by Malte Bertrand, sitting 18th place at the moment. The Team Oblivion Racing 164 having a bit of an interesting season so far. They have not had the best of starts so far. I think it's worth noting they're currently last place in the AM standings, down in 7th place, but, well, only about 156 points to the name compared to the 207 that the Austin Motorsport Group up in 6th place of the points hold. So they're looking for potentially a better result here from Oulton Park.
Yeah, they are indeed, but just pulling into the pit lane right now because you do have to drive back around again in case you've not been with us so far as we go on board with one of the Lamborghinis, I believe. Looks like a Impulse kind of shade of colour, and it is indeed Henrik Augustin of the 63 Impulse Racing team, the highest place of that team. Oh dear, and there's a BMW in the way. He's not going to be very pleased about that at all because that was definitely blocking. It was one of the VC Sim Racing cars. I think they were recovering from a mistake of their own, but that is no excuse. You do have to watch your mirrors, and I'm afraid that Augustin has been blocked on that lap there quite clearly.
He talked about the VC Sim Racing BMW trying to recover, and they were recovering from it. So they had dipped 2 wheels into the grass coming down the hill to turn 2, and they cleaned out the World of Sim Racing 151, who was just coming out of pit road, and that sent both those cars into the tire barriers. So that's what they were recovering from. That's why I saw all the damage on the rear end of Alexander Godfrey's BMW, as he had backed his BMW hard into the wall. So that's going to definitely hinder Augustin's run of the Impulse Racing Lamborghini. He'll be having to try to reset this one and try it again. Still has time, though, to make something work.
He definitely does. Still 6 when the clock hits 20 minutes to go on the top left-hand side of your screen. That is when this part of qualifying will end. So we've got just under half of the session still remaining in this one. It's Medici Racing who are currently topping the standings ahead of Pure Sims Esports. RSR are creating a bit of an impulse racing sandwich from 3rd, 4th and 5th. Team RSO by 5-star are currently making it in 6th position for them. Simtech Motorsport 7th place in the number 7. Then we've got Talk Freak Racing, Rusty Spatulas in 9th, and VC Sim Racing, who are inside the top 10 at the moment. But we do have 10 cars who haven't set a lap time yet. 5 of those have already qualified for Q2, so they don't have to. But 5 of them either haven't been able to get a lap in or haven't even been out there to attempt to do it. But I would say this is a very difficult circuit. There's not much room for forgiveness here because it's grass lining the circuit everywhere. It's not like one of the modern FIA circuits where, you know, there's tarmac everywhere. There is grass and then a barrier, really, so you do have to get it right.
And of course, there's very little runoff area, even with the grass. You have very little stopping power, about a third of what you would have on the actual tarmac, and then you combine that with a very close tire barrier, and that's going to obviously result in a bit of a bad situation. Should you find yourself offline, you could easily go screaming into a barrier. So it's something you're going to have to watch out for as this session goes along, and even during the race session goes along. We've just already seen it earlier as well when Impulse Racing got held up. There is not a lot of room to go side by side on a track like this. It is so easy to get checked up somewhere on the racetrack. It's going to be one where guys are going to have to be looking all around them at every point throughout this race.
Yeah, absolutely. It's adding qualifying indeed, because there's a lot of cars out here and not that much room really for everybody to get along. So they do have to be very careful. Everybody does, and that we've seen most of all so far. People have been keeping things fairly alright, but just you can see the Maniti Racing car weaving around to try and get some heating to the tyres. Andreas Thiel, who's currently set the best lap time of everybody, just weaving around to make sure he's got the heat in the tyres and ready to go for this next lap. He's done a 27.1 so far. He's only half a tenth in front of Pure Sims, and less than a tenth separating the top 4 at the moment. It is very, very close indeed. 5-star Motorsport, the other championship top 3 have already qualified, so we do have all the main players on form here this afternoon, which is very good news for the neutrals and the spectators among us, who I'm sure are going to enjoy the racing here this afternoon. Into the banked hairpin we see at the bottom of the circuit, Shallows Corner, excuse me, and then completely bypassing the Britain chicane. You can see on the left hand side, you can see the tyre barriers and so on. We're not using that here today. We're going straight down to Hislops near the final or the only chicane of the two. Down, oh, too late on the brakes there, just a little bit, but he can gather it up quite nicely here, can Teal. He's backed out of it by the looks of things, just short shifts and decides that this is not going to be the lap. But by the looks of things, he's got nearly 8 tenths on the guy in 11th place, so he should be able to make it in pretty comprehensively, make it into the second part of qualifying.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I mean, Andreas Thiel has done a great job to put that Audi up on top, despite all the traffic that they've been encountering so far throughout this session. So down through the Lodge Corner, up through Deer Leap. Will he attempt to go for another qualifying lap, or is he going to pull this one into pit road? He'll abandon the lap altogether and pull that one down into pit road. And why not? You have to make, of course, mandatory pit stops in both races. May as well use qualifying when you have a botched lap to potentially get some pit road practice.
Yes, not something that people do practice very often, but you can gain quite a lot of time from doing it, especially in a race like this where you only do it once and people haven't got really time to learn over the course of the evening, because of course it won't be the same driver coming into the pit lane both times necessarily, so you do have to be careful of that. Victor by RSR, the number 171, just knocking on the door of a top 10 at the moment, just on the outside of the VC Sim Racing car and the Richie Spatulas car. Both of those are Pro-Am entries, and they're inside the top 10 at the moment, with the VC car just improving ever so slightly there into 9th place. You'll see about the 171 though, missing the apex at Knickerbrook a little bit there. Looks like they're backing out ever so slightly. The BMW, I wouldn't have said would suit this circuit that much, but maybe it does, because we got one in 2nd place and 3rd and 5th, so they're doing quite well at the moment, but not what I consider to be particularly agile, especially not even just looking at it. It doesn't look agile, does it? But especially compared to a Ferrari or an Audi. But it seems to be going pretty well around Oulton Park at the moment, and they're going to go for another lap here. We're really getting down towards the end of it now, and Simtech Motorsport in the pit lane at the moment, 8th place. They'll be biting their fingernails, I'd imagine, because they're not in a safe place by any means.
And you still see the VC Sim Racing Vert machine to the 724 is still trying to come out there and get a little bit more time as they have it off on their lap. Rusty Spatula is down in 10th place, is also presently down in pit road. They're also going to be hoping that nobody can top their timing boards, but it's a bad situation for the 313 Rusty Spatula to be kind of stuck in, because the Olympus Esports crew in their Ferrari 48 is out on track, and there is only about half a tenth of a second, or even less than that, probably about a quarter of a tenth separating Olympus Esports and Rusty Spatulas at that cutoff line even. So if Olympus Esports can put together just half a tenth better on their best lap, that'll be enough to put them in.
Yeah, the fine margins at the moment, but Vector by RSR are knocking on that same door as well, but they've got an AM Porsche in front, so might be halted ever so slightly. It's the 19th placed car, a full, well, that's actually not, that's an old time, and this might not be anymore. They got out of the way though, thankfully, so Vector by RSR are going to have a clear run at this. Doesn't look like Olympus Esports are going to be able to make it in the 64. They're going to be starting from 16th position by the looks of things. That looks pretty locked in at this stage. But the 171 coming around the final corner right now. Are they going to push Rusty Spatulas out, replacing one BMW with another over the line for the Pro RSR car? And it doesn't look like they're going to make it. 12th position for them. They'll be disappointed with that, but to see 2 Pro-Am cars inside the top 10, very, very impressive for both of those teams.
And incredibly impressive as well, and you can see there is Antti Salominen in the Torque Freak Racing machine. You saw him having to really work that wheel through the Hislop chicane, getting all sorts of out of shape in the number 81 Porsche 911, but doing a good job of keeping that thing on the track, and he currently has his car sitting in 7th place, which should be good enough here as we are now crossing that checker flag zone. Drivers can, of course, finish their laps before they are booted out, and another mess up through the final corner of Lodge is not going to help him at all, and sure enough, going to bail that one down to the pit road.
We had a fantastic view of what it's like to drive the circuit from the driver's point of view there. That was very interesting indeed, but they make their way into the pit lane now, and that will be it for them. And that's going to be it for the first part of qualifying here. So 4 minutes to go. We'll be kicking off the second part, but that is, we've confirmed our 10 teams to have made it into the second part of qualifying. Maniti Racing, Pure Sims Esports, RSR by G Performance, Impulse Racing, Team RSO by 5-Star, who have made it in as well. RSR by G Performance, the number 69 car, the second car of those two. Torque Freak Racing in 7th, Simtech Motorsport, VC Sim Racing, and Rusty Spatulas all make it inside the top 10. So very good drives from all of those guys, and they're going to have to do it all again over the next 15 minutes to decide who's going to be on pole for the first race. But I want to talk about the championship leaders and the current pole sitters, I guess provisional pole sitters. Maniti Racing, I guess you could say, with a 27-1 right now. They won both races at Hungaroring, convincingly so, almost so that I was thinking we're not really going to have much of a championship here this season, because their streets ahead of the rest, so there's not going to be much of a championship fight between them and the rest. However, Barber Motorsports Park, they scored less than half of the points that they did at the Hungaroring. Now, I would maybe going to put it down to being an Audi thing, because we didn't see many Audis up there. However, we did see Team RSO in the 197 scoring a very healthy amount of points. So what would you put that disappointing day down? You'd have to say it is a disappointing day. 2 top 10s is fine, but it was a disappointing day for Maniti. But what would you put it down to?
It's a bit of an interesting situation, isn't it? I mean, from the looks of things, the Audis just were not there at Barber. I mean, you take a look, in both races, the top 5s were full of BMW M4 GT3s, and throughout both races combined, only 3 total Porsches were up into the top 5, and the rest of it was full of the BMWs. They were just so much better throughout the entirety of the day, and in fact, in race 1, Maniti Racing was the highest of the Audis to finish up, save for one Audi up in second place for the Team RSO, and you have to wonder potentially some of the complications that they had earlier on. I know that Team RSO did best them overall at Barber. Maybe it just wasn't their track.
Seems to be that that may well be the case because they look strong so far here at Oulton Park. We've got an Audi at the front. We've got BMWs just in behind. We've got Lamborghini represented, Porsche as well. Some more BMWs down the bottom. So we do have 4 of the manufacturers up there inside the top 10, which is a good balance. But I would argue this is one of the most, well, with the exception of Belle Isle, where I really do think qualifying is going to be very important indeed. But here, I would say maybe this is the second most difficult track to overtake at we'll have on the whole calendar, so there's a lot of pressure for me on this next quarter of an hour. There's a lot of pressure on the drivers.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, you look around at how some of the schedules could play out throughout the fall season. I would argue the only track that we could find being more difficult to overtake at would actually be the next round at the Detroit Belle Isle, but that is just because it is a street circuit. And even there, I would argue Oulton Park is still the more difficult of a track because Detroit, for the most part, is wider and has a few longer straights as well. But you look at the run from turn 6 down to 7 down Strand Drive, and of course Central Avenue from turns 2 down to 3. I feel like Oulton Park is definitely going to be a much more clinical racetrack than Detroit will be. Detroit will be more a race about survival, being a street circuit.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I'm very much looking forward to it. I've got to be honest. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see the Belle Isle street circuit play out. And there's a lot of circuits that are on this calendar that are very that you wouldn't associate with GT3 racing really, and Belle Isle's certainly one of them. And it's always good to go to these strange circuits, and indeed Long Beach that we got in 2022 should be a good race there as well. Time is ticking down though. The green light is about to be shown at the end of pit lane, and we're about to get the second and final part of qualifying underway here at Oulton Park. We're going to be led off by one of the Porsches, followed by an RSO Audi, and the rest of them follow on from behind there. 15 cars, 15 minutes to decide who is going to be taking the green flag first for race 1 here at Oulton Park. The 2 RSR cars, the confidence showing, the 2 BMWs going out last, trying to find that little bit of track space, which is going to be about twice as easy to find with about half of the cars that we've had in the previous 15 minutes. A little bit more free track space for everybody to play with, thankfully.
And if you're one of these guys in the middle of the field, I'm looking particularly at the 5-star motorsport machine of Adam Jackson, it's not the best situation for you, is it? Because you have a lot of dirty air from guys like the Project Dynamic machines and the Team RSO machines just up the road from you. So you're going to have to really kind of take that into account with your laps here. It sometimes isn't a bad thing to kind of just lay back and allow these guys to go through and get some clean air yourself. There are really 2 places you want to be when you're coming out on Q2 like this, right? You want to either be up in the front leading this thing in clean air, or you want to be way in the back with so much space that you're not going to have to worry about the dirty air up in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I would say, a little bit more difficult to get out first. You need to be looking where your pit box is, etc. Look at this now. Oh, goodness. The RSO car was battling to try and get some tyre temperature there, and the Project Dynamic car wasn't really expecting that, and nearly went off the road. There's going to be some aborted laps coming up here in a few moments' time, because there was a big mix-up going towards the final corner there. The Project Dynamic car, one of the first Pro-Am cars to get through, having done top 5 in qualifying. But this is a driver-eye view of Oulton Park with Cedric Nimulsek. What a fantastic camera angle this is. Just shows the wheel work that these guys have to go through and how difficult this circuit really is.
And you're going to see the very fast left-hand sweeper coming up here, diving through Isla Bend and up to Shell's Oil Corner. How about stepping the back end down around through turn 3? Just clip the dirt on the inside through the curb, and that unsettles the Audi. And tell you what, cat-like reflexes keep that car pointed in the right direction, up and over the hill. It's a very blind hill, isn't it? If you ever find a car that's sideways up and over the crest of this hill, you're going to have almost no time to avoid them.
It's... oh dear me, GT3 racing looks so controlled from the outside, doesn't it? But when you step inside, there's a lot going on in here, and you can see even more so in a race when you have to do this for an hour. I know there's going to be a driver change halfway through, but goodness me, it's going to be a high intensity 60 minutes for all of these guys through Druids, turn 15, missing the apex a little bit here. Nimulsek is kept it on the road at the very least, and one final corner coming up, a couple of more undulations to go before the line, and it looks like it's been a fairly good lap so far from him. This will be decent for him. He's still got time to improve on it, of course, but decent opener. 9th place for Olympus Esports, pushed down to 10th now because RSO go into 7th place. 5-Star Motorsport 11th place for them, setting their first time in the qualifying session at least, coming over the line at the 1:16 of pure sims. Are they going to be able to displace Maniti immediately? Not by the looks of things. They're going to have to stay behind just for the moment. No Nonsense Racing, and Aiden Chabot has not set a lap time just yet either. By the way, he's the final one of those who qualified in practice to be setting a lap time. Project Dynamic as well, a little bit off the pace because I think they didn't have the greatest run onto the front straight. That might not have helped them, but that's the other car which made it through in the practice session. So the opening round of times are in, and there weren't that many improvements really. Only the top 5 who got through in practice really actually set new lap times there, which just surprised me because Track Evolution should surely be kicking in by this point, but hasn't taken its effect really at this early stage.
Sometimes you're trying to push so hard that you end up burning your stuff up early on. You kind of start to make those little bit more mistakes as you try to push flat out in the second run. That might be what's taking place here. A couple drivers might just need to take a couple of moments here to just kind of reset and try it again, and sometimes that's all you need. You just need a couple of more moments and you'll be able to kind of restack it and try it all again. You take a look back at the Pro BMW of the Eric Grove in that Pure Sims Esports machine, currently sitting in 2nd place, which is a solid result for Eric Grove. We'll take that BMW up and over the line, but we'll bail out and go to pit road right behind the Rusty Spatulas machine, as well as a couple of guys like SimTech is also down to the pit lane this time by. So is Torque Free Racing Machine.
Yeah, a number of teams making their way in by the looks of things. Impulse Racing not doing that though, because they've just gone 2nd place in the standings with a good lap time there from Henrik Augustin when he is not being blocked as he was earlier. RSR go to the front now. The 68 of Oscar Coper. How good was he 2 weeks ago? Absolutely excellent for the 68 team. Brought them right into contention. They are 40 points off the championship lead, but that is nothing when you consider you could get 40 points for more than that for finishing in 9th place. So yeah, just gives you an idea of the kind of points that we're dealing with here. Of course, 100 for a singular race victory as well. They're certainly in it, and then the team in form by the looks of things. Oscar T. Coper is certainly the man in form.
I mean, they absolutely were blitzing the field over at Barbara Motorsports Park a couple of weeks ago, so we'll have to see what they'll be able to make out of themselves here today. I would expect, though, based on the qualifying performance, we can expect very big things from that 68 machine.
And here it is, just cooling down a little bit after that lap time. Maniti Racing going to have to respond in the next few moments. In the last 9 minutes of this qualifying session, going to have to come back at them in this one, but remains to be seen whether they can or not at this stage. Aiden Chabot has now set a lap time, by the way, but where did he get to is the question. Or has he set a lap time just yet? Struggling to find him just for the moment. But, oh, 4th place, there we are. He's done a very good job there, to be fair to him, having not have been out there and adapting with the circuit for the last 15 minutes in the first part of qualifying. He's done exceptionally well to jump straight into 4th position in this qualifying session. And putting No Nonsense Racing in a good place to pick up some good points here finally today. They've had some really promising races so far, but not really been able to convert into any kind of meaningful result. They're 13th in the championship right now after having some bad luck, and they've got a new look livery as well. They went for the yellow and black, or kind of gold and black Porsche previously, but they've gone for a very smart red and white now, which is going to be a little bit difficult to get used to, but also a very nice livery, I've got to say, as he gets out of the way for a whole heap of traffic, which is setting itself up for another round of times here at Oulton Park. Not many flying laps coming in right now, but people setting themselves up and trying to find track space again. It's like the start of the session all over again.
And this is where part of the problem comes in. Now that the whole field is kind of diced up around the track, it's so much harder to try to find some clean air in front of you now. Guys like Thomas Cope and, of course, Aiden Chabot of the No Nonsense Racing Olympus Esports machines that are trying to just stay out of the way of guys that are currently on hot laps behind them. But it is a bit more difficult, right, when you're kind of in this bit of a situation here in the middle of traffic while you're on an out lap, and you're just trying to keep everybody else, you know, either behind you or just out of the way, because well, they're already on qualifying laps. It doesn't look good if you're the one that impedes them.
No, absolutely not, and you could find yourself out with a penalty as well, so do have to be careful of that. We do have 8 cars separated by a quarter of a second though, which is fantastic news for us. It's such a difficult and technical circuit. It's a very, very close field here in the HyperX GT Sprint Series, which is going to be providing very good racing for us here tonight, or this afternoon, as the 5-star motorsport car gets into 9th place. We've seen Munich Racing, we've seen the 68 car, the 116, all up there inside the top 5, but 5-star motorsport, despite the fact they are 3rd place in the championship, not quite up there with them. However, this is what they do. They're very consistent rather than blistering in terms of their pace.
Sometimes, though, consistency is what you need, right? Because it's one thing to be fast at one venue and not at another, right? I mean, you need to be able to be consistent across the runs as well. And that is why Munich Racing finds itself in such a perilous position in their championship standings. They were so quick at the Hungaroring, but that quick consistency was not able to carry over to the Barber Motorsports Park, which is why they finished so poorly, scoring less than half the points that they had in the first round. So they're definitely hoping to get a bit of a better run here, and that is why we're also seeing guys like 5-star motorsports, up so far. They haven't finished higher than 2nd place so far, but it's been consistently 6th through 3rd, which sees them now 3rd place, with them scoring 143 and 140 points in the first 2 rounds respectively.
Yeah, so I wouldn't expect to see them inside the top 5 too much throughout this qualifying session, but maybe as the race unfolds, they will be up there and picking up some good points, as they so often do. This is Team RSO by 5-star. By the way, it's No Nonsense Racing go to the front by 8 thousandths of a second. RSR have been displaced with 5 minutes to go, and Aiden Champo is on a mission here today. Often the teams who go through in practice don't get in contention for pole, but that is different here today. Here's Henrik Augustin going a little bit wide through Druids, tries to hang on to it, but hard into the barriers. That's Pure Sims in the background as well. I don't think we're held up too much, not that Augustin can do too much about it anyway. But here's the man of the moment, the number 20 of Aiden Champo, trying to, well, not only trying to get pole position, but currently he's in it provisionally. He is on pole position by 8 thousandths of a second, in front of 6 thousandths of a second. Excuse me, I can't even read. At 6 thousandths, even closer than I thought, than the 68 in 2nd position at the moment. Munich Racing not been able to improve in Q2 so far. They're in 3rd. The round winners from the Hungaroring, then Impulse Racing, and then Pure Sims. Got Porsche, BMW, Audi, Lamborghini, your top 4 at the moment. Just under 4 minutes left in this qualifying session, and plenty of time for all of these guys to set a new lap time, because there's it's quite a long lap. Sorry, it's quite a short lap. Excuse me. So you can get quite a few in, and that's exactly what Champo is going to do here once again, trying to consolidate this lead. Only 6 thousandths of a second. He's not going to be sitting back and relaxing on that kind of lead. He is going to go for this and try and go even better. With 3.5 minutes to go, he needs to go a little bit better probably if he wants to take pole.
And of course, you have to look as well back to that 2nd place driver at the moment, the RSRG Performance car. As you mentioned, just 6 thousandths separated them. They are going to be pushing for absolutely everything here to try to get that time back, especially with such a strong out in that Barber. They don't want to be showing up so easily.
Digging to the right hand side over the crest is Champo, and then goes to the left for the chicane here at Hislops, and then Knickerbrook before heading up the hill towards turn 15, which is very tricky indeed. But this is looking absolutely lovely from Aiden Champo at the moment. You see, just hanging out the window, just placing the car like a surgeon at the moment. He's driving really, really well. Had to have 2 goes at it through 15 and a tiny bit wide, but nothing too much wrong with that. This looks like it might well be even quicker once again to put it further out of reach of the rest of the field with just over 2 minutes to go. Aiden Champo for No Nonsense Racing, a wonderful lap, but what's it going to produce for him? Is there going to be any more time in this one? There is, ever so slightly. He does improve to 1/4 of a tenth of a second. That is not a big margin, but you get the feeling he's done all he can do there.
But I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. It is not going to be enough to make sure that they are safe in this one by a long shot. The top 3 still separated by less than 1/10 of a second, and There you can see now Medici Racing Audi just under a tenth of a second back from the no-nonsense racing number 20 machine up in front. So Andreas Thiel, he's done a good job to put that car where it's at for now, but no doubt he wants to put that thing at least on the front row.
Yeah, this lap time currently is his best lap time from Q1 being carried through, and that does happen until you better it in Q2. You can keep your Q1 time you can keep it so that you can still get a good placing, and that's exactly what Thiel has done so far. Dips a wheel onto the grass there at 15 again, so this is not looking particularly great. It doesn't look like it's going to gain him a tenth of a second to get in pole position. RSR are not going to improve either. They're in the pit lane. It's all down to Medici really to try and take pole position away from No Nonsense Racing, and they're not going to. Andreas Thiel is going to be third at best here. He's not going to even be able to go onto the front row. It looks like Shambo might hold on here in the final minute. We do still have Impulse Racing out there at the moment, but I believe they've gone back now. Augustin won't set another lap time. Pure Sims and RSO, I guess, still do have the opportunity to do so if they want to, but yeah, goodness me, I can't see anybody taking No Nonsense Racing now, and that is very, very impressive. A big surprise to me, I must say.
Well, don't come out just yet. I believe you are able to finish your qualifying lap here in Q2 as well. So Medici still has one more chance to try to take that spot away and might just be able to pull something out. So going to be down through the Hislop chicane, this time not missing the apex for that final time today, out through Knickerbrook. Going to be coming on up now for the final few corners up through Clay Hill underneath the water tower, and it was seeing Druid's Corner coming up next. This very crucial double apex right-hand sweeper. You have to be so crucial to make this one work, and he's not going to be able to get back to the line in time.
No, run out of time there with quite comprehensively, I'm afraid, with a couple of corners to go. I'm not sure if it would have been pole or not, but the truth is, he's run out of time. It's going to be third placed for the championship leaders, Medici Racing, in the first race here at Oulton Park. The HyperX GT Sprint Series rolls on to round 3, and it's Aiden Champeau with and Oscar Coper, who are going to be on the front row together. No Nonsense Racing and RSR Performance. Then we've got Medici Racing and Impulse on the next row ahead of Pure Sims and Team RSO with Max Riedmuller in 6th position. The other RSR, the 69 car, is in 7th place alongside Cedric Nibusek of RSO. 5-Star Motorsport 9th position, but watch them in the race. They're going to be moving up through the order with Talk Freak Racing rounding out the top 10. Then we've got Olympus Esports and Simtech Motorsport rounding out the top 12. Project Dynamic, the first of the Pro-Am cars ahead of their Pro-Am rivals VC Sim Racing and British Bachelors to round out your top 15. Olympus Esports just missed out, they're 16th. Vector by RSR also were pretty close, but 17th position for them, I'm afraid, with the first of the AM cars. Westwood Racing Esports, second place in the championship, first place in the championship, asserting their dominance by the looks of things. BSTV Esports alongside Kazar Sim Racing round out the top 20. Head of Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport. Mag Performance Junior team is one of the Ferraris, 22nd. Another Impulse Racing car, 23rd, ahead of Neobe by Awesome Motorsport on row 12 of the grid. In 25th position, scrolling all the way down, we've got Full Send Racing in the 96th, then Cube Racing alongside them. Isaac Barkley driving the Kazar Sim Racing cars alongside Marco Silva of V Racers. Team Oblivion Racing and VEC Sim Racing round out your top 30. And the final 4 cars, many of which didn't actually set a lap time in qualifying. Both of the World of Sim Racing cars are back here alongside Ronin Academy, and another one of the Impulse Racing cars, Marco Jaeger, driving that car from 33rd. Not a long formation lap here, not a lot of time for these guys to gather themselves, but it's going to be a high intensity first lap here at Oulton Park. It's a flowing turn 1, it's not going to be a mass pile-up, but there could be incidents, cars going everywhere if things go wrong. Let's hope things stay clean on this very, very narrow circuit where there is not much room for error whatsoever. Aiden Champeau and No Nonsense Racing were not taking any prisoners in qualifying, taking pole position here, and now he's going to be in control of the field in the Porsche alongside with the BMW, Audi and Lamborghini all tucked in behind. It's a long hold, but the green flag is going to be in the air here at Oulton Park. We're racing for 1 hour, and it's a terrible start for Impulse Racing, dropping down to 4th position already. They single file their way out through the front of the field. They don't get through cleanly. Talk Freak Racing have gone around already. There's multiple spinners Thankfully, they've gone to the outside line, so it shouldn't cause too much of a problem. But Talk Freak Racing, it's a disaster already. One of the Impulse cars off with an RSO car as well. We said there's not much room for error here. Henrik Augustin has fallen foul of that as well.
It was the number 63 car for the Impulse Lamborghini that went off and into the grass. That's a terrible start for them, continuing over on the poor performance so far, the bad luck that they had throughout Barber Motorsports Park. It's going to continue here today at Oulton Park, but out through Oil Shell's corner, and they are going to be clean and green. Look further in behind, the Olympus Esports machine under fire from RSR by G Performance. They're still going to tuck it in the line, though, down to the Hislop chicane. Just no room to make up any proper overtakes down into the chicane. Not enough runs, unless you really wanted to send one up the inside, but that is just too risky of a move on just the opening lap of a 1 hour race.
We've got a long way to go in this race, and you do have to be patient, but goodness me, we've seen some drama off the start already. This is how it all unfolded. Side by side. That's a weird spin, that is there. And unfortunately, Simtech Motorsport got caught up on the outside line there in the Audi. 5-Star Motorsport in the number 5 car. They've made up positions in the opening portion of this race. They're 8th place now and already looking to move forward ahead of the 69 car for 7th position. This is exactly what they do every single week. They just don't qualify that well, but they race so well, and they're consistent, and that has allowed them to get 3rd place in the championship for the moment. This is how it all happened with Henrik Augustin, who was, did he come across on the RSO car there, or was the Audi sticking its nose in where it wasn't deserved? It's certainly adding to the bad luck of Impulse Racing over recent weeks.
I have a feeling that was a situation where you have to kind of be aware of your surroundings, and you have to know that people are going to be making those types of moves on the opening lap. I think Impulse probably could have left a little bit more space. If we have more troubles up at the Lodge hairpin. Oh, is that another Impulse Lamborghini? This time turning one of the BMWs in the middle. Is that one of the Vector by RSR machines that got collected up in the middle of the grouping there? But Impulse's bad luck seems to continue, and tell you what, that's not good news at all for their grouping. Their battle on further down into the chicane. You can see another look at this one that just developed further onto the straightaway. Oh, wow! Huge wreck up in the pit. One upside down even.
We got one upside down. Goodness me, that is a big accident. That's seemed to happen a long way. That might have been Simtech, because they're in the pit lane now. And yeah, that might have been them. But good lord, that was a big accident for whoever that was. And there was a number of Impulse Racing cars around. But wow, what a crazy opening to this race that we have seen. Lots of incidents happening, unfortunately. Let's have a quick look at another replay here. This is Antti Salminen of Talk Freak Racing. Go for another spin. Oh no, it's a terrible start for Talk Freak. They had a good qualifying, they got inside Q2, and I'm afraid they got inside the top 10 in qualifying, but I'm afraid it's been a disastrous start. 2 spins in 2 laps for them.
Field did a great job on that second spin, though, to manage to avoid them. Only the one other car got collected. That was just by going off track to avoid them. So good news on that front. You can see the battle still developing further up in the top 10. This is the RSR with G Performance team driven by Brandon Roseborough, trying to fend off Adam Jackson in the 5-Star Motorsport HyperX Porsche. And this is the battle currently for 7th place out there onto the racetrack. And Jackson Isaacson started to close with the draft. And how about that? Roseborough lifted off to let Isaacson through.
The number 5 into 7th position now, continuing their march up the field, which they so often do. There's the Olympus Esports car that the Talk Freak Racing car got into the side of, by the way, into turn 1. So, yeah, that was a little bit of an interesting moment. That's how they spun around. We've seen many of those so far, but thankfully only one car out of the race by the looks of things. I think Simtech Motorsport are going to be out after flipping onto their roof. So you can hardly blame them, I guess, at this point as we continue on to the end of another lap. It's the end of lap 3 already, and on to number 4 with 5 minutes complete in this race. A very chaotic opening, but I can't say I'm surprised. It's a track where these kind of things do tend to happen, especially off the start. Hopefully things begin to settle down now. We can begin to see some good battles up and down the field.
And I mean, even in club cars, you know, you can see this sort of carnage taking place, but it is such a tight racetrack. It can be a difficult one to make overtakes on really any car, let alone, you know, these high-powered GT3 machines that we're seeing being thrown around this little circuit. So I can't say I'm very surprised either at some of the carnage, and who knows, we'll probably get a repeat of that one. Same, you know, second verse, same as the first over in race 2 when we get that 20-car reverse grid as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It does add an element to it, and in case you don't know what we're talking about and you've not been with us so far in this HyperX GT Sprint Series season, the top 20 are reversed after race 1 as we head into the second race of the evening. So watch out for that, especially off at the start, as we've just referenced. It can get very spicy indeed, and so yeah, we look forward to it. But for now, Munich Racing are the ones under pressure. We've got Porsche leading BMW, leading Audi, with the Lamborghini that was up here struggling, and all the way down the order now after their spin at Cascades that we saw on the first lap. We're on board with Eric Grove of Pure Sims Esports in the BMW, and I've got to say the championship leaders not looking all too strong here in this first race right now. They're letting the two leaders go away, and Pure Sims and RSO do look quicker.
You see Matt Loveridge in the Olympus Esports machine just lost it on 2 spots, was side by side with Team Arsoba 5-star out of Lodge Corner, but up through Deer Leaf. Got passed as well by BSTV Esports. Might be having a little bit of an off at the Lodge Corner as well, but it was a good side by side battle up to the front straightaway, one of the shortest straights on the racetrack. So a bit interesting that is where one of the only actual overtakes that has not been a result of a wreck being made so far today. So it's a good pass though for BSTV. Adam Wright finds himself now up in 14th place because of that. And you'll see the number 4 BMW car still trying to keep that Olympus Esports Ferrari at bay. And I'll tell you what, that Ferrari has found itself in a bit of a hot water with a few teams after Barber Motorsports Park hasn't. And I mean, got collected in, well, let's say, a few questionable incidents, I think is a bit of an understatement.
Well, there were incidents that happened at Barber, and yeah, I'm sure a few people aren't too pleased about them, and so on and so forth. But I guess it's the way it goes. Meanwhile, change of position with Team RSO by 5-star for 12th position, getting ahead of the Vector by RSR team. RSO on RSR making positions just outside the top 10 down there as we go to an all BMW battle here in Pro-Am. They're both trying to chase down Project Dynamic, but Rutschi Spatulas and BC Sim Racing can't seem to stop battling with each other at the moment in these two BMWs. Resigned to the fact that they'll be scrapping for second all season long by the looks of things, because Project Dynamic are on their way to a fifth victory in a row if things stay as they are for the next 52 minutes.
You could see the VC Sim Racing machine thinking about making a move up the inside of Rusty Spatulas, but it just wasn't going to happen that time by coming through turn number 1. Maybe with the run of the turn 2, has a bit of a drafting run all the way down this long straight up into the left-hand sweeper of Island Bend and into the braking zone of Shell Oil's corner. Still no move being made. I think it's a wise maneuver from VC Sim Racing to kind of just back out, maybe wait down for the Hislop chicane. Now we're going to look up the inside line, and this is going to be a drag race coming on up as they bypass that Britain's chicane and up and over Hilltop down towards Britain's. Will this be Battle of the Late Breakers? Who backs out? Answer is going to be Rusty Spatulas from the outside.
Yeah, sensible choice really. It's a fairly tight chicane, and that barrier on the inside doesn't make things any easier, so sensible choice to be made there by the slightly darker of the two BMWs in terms of the livery that we have before us. But yeah, a pretty good move there, and now VC Sim Racing can begin to chase the Project Dynamic Lamborghini, if indeed they can get anywhere with that, because it's a very strong car indeed, leading Pro-Am once again, as has been the story of the season, as BSTV Esports make their way through on Vector RSR, who are just getting absolutely mauled by everyone now. Here comes the Olympus Esports car for the Ferrari. I think this is the highest up Ferrari of them all, actually, in 15th position right now, flying through turn number 1 as always, looking for a way through, but there's going to be no way through at Cascades, you wouldn't imagine. Left-hander, long left-hander that falls away from you down the hill and towards then another very fast left-hander, not an overtaking opportunity, and it's so narrow here that you can not really make a dive into the hairpin either, so Olympus Esports are going to have to stay behind for now, but they do look strong.
And you could see them kind of fancying a move into turn 1. They definitely thought about it, but decided it would be better to just kind of tuck in line. It's such a high-speed right-hander to start off the lap that it's almost not worth it in these cars trying to send one up the inside line. A couple of guys that are still looking to battle, though. You'll look up to the other Olympus Esports machine. This one, a Porsche 911 GT3 being driven by Thomas Coben. Right behind him is, of course, Adam Isaacson. The battle for 6th place looking to rage on. You've got RSR by G Performance and Project Dynamic in their own BMW and Lamborghinis respectively trying to close this gap. But for now, it is a 2 Porsche battle for 6th place, and you also see 5th, 4th, and 3rd just up the road from them. Can iRacing get a good run out of the final cone? It doesn't look like it. Not going to be close enough to have a look down to the turn number 1 here on Olympus Esports.
I've never failed to be impressed about these guys' race pace in 5-star motorsport. It's really fantastic. Olympus Esports are going to have their hands full for this entire race. Thomas Cope it is at the moment, who's having to defend, but how long he's going to be able to do it for is another question. However, they're both in the Porsche at least, so we won't be able to see 5-star motorsport using the advantages of the Porsche on the Olympus Esports car in front, because they are driving the same car. It's going to be a little bit more driver skill and a little bit more setup involved in there, but that is a very good run off of the hairpin. It's a fantastic run, and he's, oh goodness, he's nearly got to the inside through the gentle right-hander. The Impulse Race, Olympus Esports just look like they're pulling wide ever so slightly. They might just be giving it to 5-star motorsport at this stage. Are they fighting it on the outside? Not really. It looks like they just about gave it to them, but they didn't look too willing to do so, I must be honest. But 5-star motorsport march on.
Great crossover out of the Shell Oils hairpin for 5-star motorsports. They entered high and exited low and just got a huge run down the straight. That's how you make up a pass here at Oulton Park. It's one of the only places where you actually can go for a proper move, is getting a better run out of the corner, because the straights just aren't long enough where the draft necessarily can play a huge hand. You can see Olympus Esports trying to fight back, overshot themselves though on the braking points, and that's now going to put them under fire from the RSR by G Performance number 69 BMW, headed up by Brandon Roseborough, who's still looking to work his way up further inside the top 10. And don't look now, but Project Dynamics Lamborghini is looking hungry just behind them. Yeah,
they are actually, despite the fact they're in a Pro-Am car, and it wouldn't actually gain them any points to go through at this point. They're still going to want to, in my opinion, so...
Oh, hang on! Yellow flags, big crash, turn 1, 2 Porsches collecting together, and they are both hard and off, but... So a major incident for the number 74, I potentially believe. They're dropping down the timing board. Same with the 27 car. Watch this one here, potentially up and over into the tie bears, looking down the inside. 2 of the AM machines. Big collision, and oh, man!
Goodness me. Well, I'm not entirely sure that was a fair enough move in my opinion, but just not quite. Yeah, he wasn't going to make the corner. There wasn't going to be much space for the car on the outside, we'll put it that way, when that went through. But that was a big accident between the 2 Porsches. It just shows that if you do make a move around here, you do have to get it right. Otherwise, things could go wrong very quickly. But turn 1, not a conventional overtaking opportunity, I wouldn't have said, but and that might be a reason why.
He just tried to go for the over-under, but it didn't quite work. Just completely misjudged how much room he actually had to make it work, so just hooked him into the wall. That's going to send both those cars effectively now out of this race early on. Unfortunate for them, but that allows us to now look back up to this battle here for 4th place. Eric Grove looking down the inside of Beniti, racing up into turn number 1. We just saw what a pass over here did to 2 of the Porsches, but this time it's going to be a clean overtake. And look out for RSO, trying to find a way on the inside in the Audi, looking left, looking right, getting chopped off at every opportunity. This Beniti struggles to hang on.
No way through. Beniti just throw the blockers at every opportunity, and RSO are going to have to try and find a different route to get through. That was a good move by Pure Sims, and cooperative from Beniti as well, to be fair to them, as they go down into... What's happened to RSR?
Oh, they're off Shell Oil's corner.
They are. I saw some smoke around the 68 car. One of the races last time out at Barber got off at the hairpin. Looks like they're pretty damaged as well on the left-hand side there. The front left looks quite damaged. They're completely on their own. Let's see what happened to them. Just run a little bit wide. Oscar Coper, he was absolutely wonderful, formidable 2 weeks ago. That is a hard impact with the barriers at the hairpin. That car is certainly going to be damaged.
And when you get onto the grass there's just no way you're stopping in time for the Shell Oil's hairpin. So unfortunate. So he'll be finding himself now struggling to hang on to top 10 positions. RSO looking for the inside of Beniti, gonna throw the sand. Beniti covers him off. Last possible second, still trying to charge down Eric Grove with the Pure Sims Esports 116 just up the road from them. And this is all now a battle for the final. A couple of podium positions actually as a result of all of that. So you see RSO of Cedric Nebelsek, trying to look up the inside of turn 1. Still no dice as the RSR Performance Machine comes down to pit road, looks up the inside of 2. That's a great overtake for Nebelsek on Maniti Racing. That puts him up into 3rd, and there you can see a replay of the Ronin Academy Lamborghini having a bit of an off at the Hislop chicane.
Yeah, just a small one there. It shows what happens when you go side by side at the chicane, really. But that is very damaging now for the 68 car to have to repair that damage. Pitting 10 minutes too early. The pit window's between 35 and 25 minutes to go in this race, and you've got to make work. There's a mandatory pit stop between. Then you've got to make a pit stop and a driver change in that particular section. Otherwise you'll be disqualified. Yes, you do have to be careful of that. But this is 10 minutes too early for the 68 team, who are going to take a big hit in the championship here. Maniti Racing don't look like they're going forward at all, really, having RSO just in front of them at the moment. 73 points though for 4th place. That's still a lot for Maniti to be gaining if there's going to be a 0 next to the 68 car's name by the end of this race.
And here you can see the other RSR GT Performance Machine, Brandon Roseborough, still trying to run down Thomas Cope, the Olympus Esports Porsche, as meanwhile just up the road for them you can see the 5-star motorsport driven by Adam Isaacs. He starts to stretch his legs, way off goes Thomas Cope, and Roseborough almost follows. There is a little bit of, I guess, artificial turf you can use on the outside line where you still have quite a bit of grip that you could use to try to maximize onto speed. You won't be penalized for it. You see more of it that they're dipping the wheels onto out of turn number 2, but you always want to be careful, right? Because that artificial turf runs out very, very quickly, and you're going to find yourself with all of a sudden no grip and no way to control your car.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of those circuits. It's a fascinating watch at the moment. Olympus Esports trying to go on the defensive right now. 5-star Motorsport not really getting away, but not really under pressure either. As these two groups as a whole, the two trios that you could just see briefly in your shot there, the battle for 2nd and the battle for battle for 5th here, starting to get a little bit closer by the looks of things, and all coming into one camera shot. So yeah, it's getting interesting at the front of the field. But No Nonsense Racing right out front in the number 20 Porsche, leading this race by quite a long way at this stage. 4 seconds very nearly to Pure Sims Esports, who are in 2nd place, not only in this race but also in the championship, to Maniti Racing. But they would be able to overhaul them if things were to stay as they are right now. Cube Racing getting through at the moment on one of the Impulse cars, side by side, very nearly through 15 would be a bad idea. But what about the final corner? This is a much better one. Maybe down the inside for Impulse, but no way through for Hendrik Augustin, excuse me, who's trying to find his way back through after his opening lap off.
And really just showing how difficult it is to overtake here. I mean, he started up in 4th place. We know how much speed Augustin has underneath him, but it's just not been able to get past some of these other Lamborghinis and Porsches up in front of him here. You can see maybe the inside of 2 thinking about it. Cube Racing thought about giving him room, but just wasn't deep enough on the brakes to have that proper look down the inside line. So Augustin is going to continue to have to just sit in behind and be nice and patient here with Jean Charles just up the road from him, and maybe up into the Hislop chicane this time by, if he could get a proper run here out of Shell Oil's corner.
It's not a bad run, but it might not be quite good enough. You do need an excellent one, really. It's not a huge overtaking opportunity here that you see. It's not a very wide piece of road, but he's going to go for it late on the brakes. Very brave indeed. Bit of cooperation from the driver you're passing, and it's back into the top 20 for the recovering Impulse Racing car, the 63 team that only scored 19 points back at Barn Motorsports Park in what was a disastrous day for the team. Hopefully it can be a little bit better here today as we go back on board with RSR in the 69 car. Their teammates, by the way, Oscar Coper, still in the pit lane and probably kicking himself by the standards that he holds himself to and how good he actually is. He's going to be kicking himself.
And you can now see two of the one of the other Porsches as we ride on board with the RSR BMW driven by Brandon Roseborough, still trying to close the gap to Thomas Cope. But we saw this before, at the Barber Motorsports Park. That Porsche is just so much better throughout the corners. That BMW has got advantage on the straights But the problem is there's not enough strength for him to be able to properly have a look at the inside of the Porsche. How about this battle further down the order with the Olympus Esports, number 13 Ferrari trying to get up the inside of Adam right in the BSTV Esports machine. A bit of a Beamer sandwich here at the moment with Ted Lowendig for Vector by RSR just behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another three-car train that's become quite fashionable over the last few moments into the Hislop chicane again, navigating the tyre barriers, and no way through for the moment. The 171 has been falling backwards, I've got to say, over this race. I know they started 17th, but they're now 14th, but they do keep getting overtaken over the course of the race. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, certainly. It's all very close at the front as VC Sim Racing are overtaken by RSO by 5-star. For 9th position, by the looks of things, that was probably into the final corner, by the looks of things. But that looks like it was a fairly easy enough move because VC haven't really come back at the RSO car at all there, and they're now 5 seconds behind the Project Dynamic car, which is leading Pro-Am, and they're a couple of seconds in front of Rusty Spatulas, who are leading who are third place in that category. Just want to try and look down towards the AM category to see if anybody can get anywhere near Westwood Racing Esports here in this one, because I believe they are still leading here in that 50... oh no, Oblivion Racing. Now then, the 164 car, Oblivion Racing, and Marcel Boutron is leading that one ahead of Benjamin Oppenkowski in the AM category. They're in the same train. It's headed by Oblivion Racing in 18th position, and it goes all the way down to 23rd. There's a 6-car train going on, headed by this Ferrari right here, and the AM battle for the lead is involved within it. So this is quite a busy part of the track as well.
It certainly is, and this is going to be one thing to look out for throughout the remainder of this race, right? To see how this AM battle could potentially play on out. So you got the Team Oblivion Racing Machine still trying to keep the pro machine of Impulse Racing at bay. Impulse trying to find some way through. Is he actually going to look up the inside of the Druid's corner to try to have a move? I thought not. That would be too risky for him. But you can take a look further up the field to two of the other pro cars looking to potentially do battle out through turn number 1. This is at the moment the battle for second place that has swapped hands. Devilsec getting up and past the Pure Sims Esports BMW up into turn 1.
Very good move by the RSO car, and it is side by side. This is for the lead now in the AM category. The Audi and the Ferrari battling together. Augustin has made his way through these guys, so it is purely Oblivion Racing versus Westwood Racing Esports. Oblivion Racing are last in the championship in the AM category. For some reason, they have not had a very good season whatsoever, but it could all turn around with a race victory. However, I've got to be honest, Westwood Racing Esports applying a lot of pressure right now. I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on to this for the next 35 minutes or so, and indeed after the pit stops, which are coming up very soon, and maybe one more lap after this one, and everybody will be eligible to come down pit lane. It's going to get very, very busy in there.
Overall, the Audi just seems to be a heck of a lot faster than a Ferrari so far consistently throughout this season. That Ferrari just does not have the pace that some of these other GT3 machines have. And you can see that on full display here, Team Oblivion is struggling to keep Westwood Racing Esports in behind them. So Bertrand going to have to work really hard to keep Opakowski in behind him in that number 87 Audi R8 LMS in that AM battle for the race lead. And the battle for, of course, 19th place overall, just showing how far back some of these AM drivers have slipped in comparison to some of the pro leaders that are, at this point, over 30 seconds up the road in front of them. Maybe, not quite.
He thought about it. You could see the thought go through his head, and he's got a great exit. So it was a poor run from the Ferrari. In the end, he didn't really need to fake the move because the mistake was coming anyway. And now Opakowski's got the chance to go around the outside at turn 1 to take the lead in AM. What a spectacular move that is. He's going to give him the inside line for Cascades, but he doesn't even need it because he's already got the AM lead. We do have a change in the AM category. It is for the lead, and Westwood Racing Esports Championship leaders go back to the front once again. A great pass there, and fully deserving of their lead. By the looks of things, they're getting stronger as this race is going on, as the Ferrari is beginning to decline in its performance by the looks of things.
You can see the Mag Performance Junior team is also trying to have a run here at the Cube Racing Lamborghini just up the road, though, and they almost found their way with the over-under out of the Shell Oils hairpin, looking for the inside line. Gonna actually send one of the inside into his left. That's a risky move, and look out for the Ronin Academy Audi that's gonna, or the Lamborghini, excuse me, that's gonna take advantage of that instead and try to push one around the outside. Contact pushes both cars off, and the Lamborghini way into the grass.
Yeah, there was not much room given there by the Ferrari, got to be honest. The Lamborghini didn't really have anywhere to go for Ronin Academy there, and just went off through Nickenbrook around the outside there, but might end up just coming into the pit lane here anyway, because the pit stop window is open. I'm gobsmacked that nobody's come in yet, but maybe finally we'll see one in. Back to my RSR get through on BSTV Esports, but everybody bypasses the pit lane for the first time. I don't think we've ever seen that. Normally, at least somebody is going in early. Somebody wants to get out of the car. Maybe finally Cube Racing going to be the first to blink from 23rd, and World of Sim Racing are going to follow them in. After starting so far back, by the way, in the M category, the World of Sim Racing cars have not done badly at all to get their way up towards, well, not quite the front just yet, but they are making some kind of progress. Yeah, we do have some pit stops. Excuse me, we do have some pit stops further down the order. However, not up the front of the field. Those are going to wait a little bit longer. I would argue that coming down when not a lot of other people are is a good idea, though, because it is not the biggest pit lane we'll visit.
This really is not. I mean, only 18 pit stalls so far, which means pretty much every stall except 2 of them are going to be shared here today. So it's better to come on down when you don't really have anybody else that you have to worry about coming down pit road, filling up your stall, making it that much harder to find. Up in front, though, Eric Rowe from Pure Sims Esports is going to come on down to the lane of the 116 machine, bailing out of what was 3rd place, and is now going to be down and in for his first pit stop on the day. So Eric Grove will be hopping out of the car, and that, I believe, will be putting Michael Evdoka into the machine as well. So the 116 has the new driver now. We'll be able to see what he can do if we're able to maintain that podium position.
Or indeed push on and go further from that. We'll wait and see which one it's going to be for them. But yeah, Evdoka has got into that car now, and he'll be raring to go here in a few moments' time. 5-Star Motorsport, look at them go. Still very, very good from this Porsche once more. The Maniti Racing car is now under pressure. It's only got an 11-point margin over these guys in the championship, and all of a sudden they've got to defend from them on the road. Andreas Thiel, it's not been like Maniti. Maniti have never really been the same since the Hungaroring, and once again, I'm not sure if it's an Audi thing, but yeah, we've got an Audi, the RSO car up in front, and they actually overtook Maniti to get into that position, so it can't be an Audi thing. But Maniti are not as strong as they were at the Hungaroring, where they were absolutely unbeatable. All of a sudden, they're championship leaders, but not unbeatable any longer. It's a wide open championship, and a fascinating one, you've got to say. Well, who's going to pit this time out of these guys? RSO come in, and so do 5-Star Motorsport. Now, will that be costly for Maniti? Because by the looks of things, 5-Star Motorsport are quicker. Even if Maniti lead this one lap, they might get undercut.
You mentioned if it's just an Audi thing, that means Maniti hasn't been in good form since the Hungaroring, and I have to say, I think that honestly might just hit the nail on the head. Remember, there was that balance of performance updates that we've been seeing throughout the course of the season. It's an 11-kilogram BOP currently on those Audis, including the Maniti cars, so it might, in fact, just be an Audi thing that they're having to struggle with at the moment. So we'll be seeing how this would affect Andreas Thiel so far throughout the remainder of this race. He is now one of the only guys that battle for 2nd on back through 5th that has not come down to pit road yet. And he is no doubt going to be coming in either this time by or the next time, surely. And further back behind them, you can see there is Brandon Roseborough in the RSRBG Performance BMW, still trying to hold off Thomas Scobie, the Olympus Esports Porsche, and so far has been able to kind of extend that gap out in his BMW. So Roseborough definitely on a good hunt at the moment and looking for a good points haul at the end of the day.
Absolutely, and their teammates in the 68, Oscar Coper, not going to, because he's still in the pit lane. Not entirely sure if he's still getting repairs and will get back out there, because I don't believe there are 25 pro cars. There aren't even 25 pro cars entered, so if he does get out there and complete the race, then I think he'll score some points. Maybe, you know, there might not even be 10 points on the table, but every point is going to matter, and so he's got to try and get everything he can here. But not only this is really costly for the 68 car, because as Munich Racing come in, but just quickly, you know, not only does it affect this race, they're not going to score many points, but they have to work their way through the field and the next one as well. They don't even get the benefit of the reverse grid.
And of course, it's only back to the top 20 that get that advantage. So if you started if you finish 20th place, that's going to put you now up into the pole position of race number 2. But obviously, they're well below that, so they're definitely going to have their work cut out for them. You saw Thomas Go with the Olympus Esports Porsche also come down to pit lane this last time by. BSTV Esports and their BMW has made the trip down to pit road. So more and more drivers now getting set to kind of tick the time away and go through their pit stop window with, I believe, under 5 minutes left to go now in that pit stop window. So we're going to be seeing everybody that hasn't pitted yet coming on in, I would say, the next 2 laps or so.
The time is running out. 4.5 minutes remaining of this pit stop window that we are currently within. Where are Munich Racing in relation to... Oh, they've got ahead of Team RSO and Pure Sims and 5-Star. Goodness me. So Rudy Knockville has pulled the blinder here with Munich Racing, and they are out in front of Robin Hassett, who is now in the Team RSO 197, out in front of Pure Sims, who've been jumped by RSO, and 5-Star Motorsport are there as well. So, wow, Munich Racing net second position as things stand in this race. That's a very good pit stop from them. Let's see how that really happened, because, you know, their pit stop time was the same, their lane time was actually longer than a few of them, so surely he could have had an absolutely blinding in-lap and out-lap, or entered the pit lane really well or something. But my goodness, that is a huge jump for them, and it puts them in a great place for the second half of this race.
I can tell you where it's all coming from. It's the battle for net P3 in the moment. Robin Haas is having to put himself offline, trying to keep Pearsons behind it. That's allowing for Benito to pull further and further away. You can see just how close that gap is. Having to go defensive again up towards Lodge. This time, though, Evdoka not going to be held back. Trying the outside line of Lodge, going for the over-under. Look out. Don't run over the rear wing of the Audi, my friend. Robin Haas able to hold with him. But it's those battles there, those little looks, that is what is causing Benito to be able to pull away here. It's not their overall pace. It's the lack of pace right behind us. They battle for position, and that time nearly getting dumped was the Team RSO 197.
Absolutely, this all falls into place now, because of course when you're battling like this, you're not going to be going as quickly as somebody just driving on their own. So yeah, this is all starting to make sense for Munich Racing, and a big stroke of luck for them, you've got to say. Not really clever pit strategy, just a little bit of luck for them to be able to... I guess they've managed to keep themselves in clean air for a good amount of time, which is a good thing, and they will have calculated that, and these guys didn't manage to do that, but still, that little bit of luck was on their side as the race leaders come in. No Nonsense Racing, we've not talked about them very much, but we haven't had to, because they've been leading by a very long way, doing very well indeed. 5-Star Motorsport, big dive, and Pure Sims give it to them. They just all about keep it on the road, but it's a very tight chicane. There wasn't much room to breathe there, but 5-Star Motorsport were adamant they wanted that position, and they did get it.
And I can tell you right now, Pearsons wants it back. They already gave the Porsche that bumper coming through Knickerbrook that last time by, and Fritz able to hold on. You can see Evdoka looking for the inside line. Oh, Fritz, leave the room. You can't do that. Forces Evdoka off the track. That is a really naughty move there from the Porsche. Evdoka just barely had the nose in. They got squeezed out pretty blatantly, if I have to say.
Yeah, it did look like it. It was very close, too close to call almost. But yeah, very, very interesting racing between the two of them as out the pit lane. Goodness me, the 69 car's out ahead of these two. That is how much these guys have been fighting. An outrageous amount of fighting going on between all of these guys at the moment. And so, all of a sudden, we've got the 69 car in what's going to be 4th position or something.
Boy.
5-Star Motorsport on the defensive. Pure Sims trying to go around the outside through this long left-hander at turn 4. That is not going to work, and it's going to end up with you in the grass and in the wall like Oscar Copa was if you're not careful. That's a good exit off of the hairpin though for Pure Sims, and there might be an opportunity for them to get through on the 5 into the chicane. RSR give the slipstream to 5-Star Motorsport, though they don't really want Pure Sims through by the looks of things, and they can't get through at the moment. Excuse me. Rusty Spatulas and Talk Freak have to come in, but that is it. It's all getting very close indeed. These battles are set to stay with us for the final 25 minutes.
Talk about getting physical. That's the second bump now that Pure Sims has given to the back end of Maximilian Fritz, looking for the inside of Drew. It's not gonna work there, my friend. And all this, look at the Olympus Esports machine. Thomas Cope is now throwing his hat into the ring as well. So if Daka not close enough this time up in the lodge, he'll have to kind of settle in behind. But look at just how much more speed he's able to carry on now. Maximilian Fritz, it's taking everything to keep Evdaka in behind him here as the Rush Spatulas and Torque Freak machines both now come down to pit road here. And Evdaka is probably has to be livid at the moment with Maximilian Fritz. He hasn't been able to get through. Fritz looking up the inside of Anthony Pisano with the RSR G Force machine up the inside of 2, makes the pass work. Now, how willing will RSR be to let Evdaka through? Not too willing, it looks like. And once again, Sims squeezed down the left side, trying to make that one up here through the bend. And once they don't get, look out, Pisano spins. And somehow Thomas Cope avoids any contact with Pisano as he spun across the track.
Goodness me, the RSR car goes around and that corner is proving very difficult for that team as a whole by the looks of things, given what we saw earlier. But I don't know how they all stayed quite so clean in that one. These two continue to battle for 4th place now. Pure Sims versus 5-Star Motorsport. They lose as they hit the side of each other there as well. Look at how far behind Maniti Racing they are. 7 seconds compared to on the back of them as they were not so long ago. This is one camera shot of it, getting onto the grass ever so slightly. Thomas Cope does a very good job. There's only slight contact with the wall for Anthony Pisano, but is there room for everybody here? I think there is. He just ever so slightly misjudges it. There's slight contact with Cope. There's a bit of contact with the barriers as well, and it's not over here.
This is not going to end in a pretty fashion. That hit that they had at his last time by was hit number 3 in this battle here. Evdaka not showing any signs of backing down. I have a feeling here, Ewan, this is not going to end with an overtake. It's going to end with probably the 5-Star Motorsport machine up into the wall somewhere with Pure Sims likely following them, and that would give Olympus Esports a huge gap. There's a late block from Maximilian Fritz. The Porsche continues to make that Porsche as wide as the track itself, and Evdaka, no doubt, not a happy camper at the moment, thinking about the outside line through the island bend, not able to make it though, and once again, Evdaka on defense here. It's a BMW in a Porsche sandwich. And there's a 4th hit now.
Another hit between the two of them, but it's actually given them a wonderful exit off the corner, almost inadvertently there. So 5-Star Motorsport are going to be clear for just a few moments, but Maniti Racing are going to be absolutely punching the air at this because Olympus Esports and Thomas Cope is now not fazed by what he's just seen. He wants to get a piece of the action and wants to get involved in this fight, and that's exactly what he's going to do over the next few moments by the looks of things. They all run out through the corners once again. By the way, the 69 car did get going again. They're now in 12th position. I don't think they're too damaged by it, actually, by the looks of things. Anyway, I don't think there's too much damage actually on that car. However, you never know. I suppose Anthony Pisano is going to be struggling with that one over the next couple of laps, getting used to it and so on and so forth. But let's hope that they can at least get to the end inside the top 20, because that means we'll be seeing them up towards the pointy end again in the second race, actually battling with Full Send Racing at the moment. But yeah, this battle has been fantastic. And unfortunately, we have seen a victim from it, but it was bound to happen. It's such a narrow circuit, and they've been doing this for the last 10 minutes or so. It's been really, really entertaining racing, and it's all about to happen again. Moving to the middle of the road, the 5-Star Motorsport car. Pure Sims trying to get through. Olympus barging their way down the inside very nearly. Pure Sims not allowing that to happen. It's the over and under into the hairpin. Outside line through the banked hairpin at turn 5. Maybe that will work, but it's unlikely to. That maybe another over and under. Can't make it work through there. The long right-hander. It's a longer distance for them. They're not quite going to have the run through that one, but maybe into the chicane. There's an opportunity for some late braking. It's going to get quite tight through here. And thankfully, he backs out of it, but that could have ended a lot worse. 5-Star Motorsport, hang on again.
This is fantastic racing that we're seeing here, and all of the battle for 4th place. I mean, 5-Stars just run away with it. You can see 5-Stars trying to fend off Pearson's. Here comes Olympus up the inside. Thought about it into Druid's, not able to make it. Look at Project Dynamic. Yannis Albert is throwing his hat now into the ring in the Lamborghini, and they're slowly reeling in. The team RSO by 5-Star Machine and Niels Benedict just in behind them. I mean, they are losing so much time in this fierce fight, and it looks like finally Maximilian Fritz, for the first time since the pit window, has a little bit of breathing room, but that's not going to last very long.
This is exactly not what Project Dynamic need, really, because they've got a 10-second lead in their category, but this is so dangerous for them to be involved in. You know, I think they'd rather not be here, really, but it all settles down for the last minute or two. 20 minutes remaining in this race. It's been another wonderful HyperX GT Sprint Series race. It's just been a fantastic season. Every single race is non-stop action, exactly like this. And Oulton Park, no exception. It's not apparently not that difficult to overtake, not that difficult to provide drama and entertainment for us, certainly. And we're about to see some more. Into the chicane we go again, with the 5-star Motorsport car defending here on the inside line. Maximilian Fritz holding on for dear life, and Michael Vodka trying to do anything to get through, and Stiddy can't quite do it. Oh no!
Oh my God!
It's not wrong! Into Knickerbrook, they make contact, and 5-star Motorsport go off into the gravel.
It was inevitable. I told you it was going to end with one of these cars being spun around, and it ended up being the 5-star Porsche. And Pure Sims sticking the nose where it probably shouldn't have gone, and obviously Fritz not expected it, had to turn in to make the corner, and that is going to bring a smashing end to that battle. But you still see Pure Sims under fire. Oh, big loose motor of Doka. Look at that. Thomas Cope now picks up 2, and they're going to find themselves up in 4th place now. But once again, Pure Sims going to be on the hunt, but that mistake just really put them back where they started.
It has, yeah. They got up into 4th position very briefly there. They're back down to 5th with Olympus Esports now on the march up. This is a little bit further back with World of Sim Racing and Talk Freak, David Barraclough trying to recover some of the mistakes from earlier on. Going off the road a little bit into the very same chicane when we saw that incident a few moments ago. But what a battle we were seeing with those. It's a real shame the way it ended. It really is, but goodness me, that was very, very entertaining. For the last 15 minutes or so, they've just been going at it absolutely non-stop, almost side by side into every corner. 5-star Motorsport and Pure Sims Esports. Unfortunately, as I say, unfortunate the way it ended, but it was very, very entertaining.
And it's not quite over yet, though. I mean, now it's going to be Olympus Esports' turn to see how they can defend. Now, the 5-star machine, admittedly, was, I think, aggressive on defense is probably the understatement of the event so far. I mean, they were doing everything they possibly could to keep them in behind. We'll have to see how this will play out for them. Here's another battle for 2 BMWs. The Vector by RSR machine being sent by the Morpheus by also Motorsports Porsche. Here comes Impulse Racing in their Lamborghini up the inside through Knickerbrook, and that's going to actually work out for Impulse Racing beautifully there. RSR pulls away as Vector got pushed out of line by the 72, and Linus Tech now still looking to do battle here in his number 63 Impulse Lamborghini. Will find the inside here of Druids, and Stefan Schella trying to maybe cut back, but not going to happen. In fact, that was the other Impulse race machine of Rainer Werner down the inside here, potentially of Lodge, but again, that goes nowhere.
It's another big train and another lot of battles going on a little bit further on down the field as we go on board on the left-hand side of your screen with Michael Evdog of Pure Sims Esports trying to make his way through on Thomas Cope of Olympus Esports. You see just in front Project Dynamic and Team RSO by 5-star not too far behind, but on the right hand side of the screen another 5-car battle that is going on, including the recovering 63 car, which has done a good job to at least get themselves inside the top 20, looking to push on a little bit further now and try and do their best to get further into the top 20, but yeah, Pure Sims not letting this one lie either. You saw them briefly side by side there, but not able to get through. As Impulse now make a move.
That's up the inside of the Vector by RSO Lamborghini, and Jarek cannot defend. Tech now goes through. Oh, and Schella hits the back end of the 171 as well. On the left-hand side, you see Pearson's fighting the inside of Olympus through Lodge, but that can't go anywhere. Potentially, though, up for turn 1 would not be the first time that Pearson has made a pass up into turn 1. They're going to go for it here as well. Up the inside of Olympus of 1. The Porsche trying to defend wide out of the corner, and that will allow them, though, to hang on.
Does indeed, as they go down towards Cascades, and Holds on once again. The Pure Sims car does look quick here today, but just getting involved in the wrong battles at the wrong time. And look at the way Munich Racing have been able to avoid them and get up into second place. That is how much it has cost these guys. And it just shows picking your battles at the right time, getting free track space is actually going to be more important than I initially thought here. Getting involved in the wrong battles at the wrong time like this, it is not good for your race whatsoever. That's what we've seen so far. And Evdoka has been involved in everything in the last 20 minutes. And here he is again on the outside of Thomas Cope. But there's not much space here into the chicane, so he can't make it work. Very close to the back of the Porsche there, but nothing doing. 4 different cars battling all over 4th place at the moment.
And on the right-hand side, the Impulse Lamborghini of Linus Tech now worked his way past Anthony Bassano with the RSR by G Performance Machine, and John Jarrett had seen under fire from Stefan Skella in the Morpheus by Awesome Motorsports Porsche just behind him. And you still got the other Impulse Racing Lamborghini trying to throw their hat back into the ring as well. Skella trying to get the run on John Jarrett. It's a very interesting dynamic, isn't it? I mean, on the right-hand side, you had seen a Porsche pressure the BMW, and on the left, it was a BMW pressure to Porsche. So sometimes it is just down to the driver. Project Dynamic loses one in the battle with RSO for 6th place. How about a look at the inside, though, of Druid Skella, not showing any mercy to John Jenkins, vectored by RSR Machine. Winner thinking 3 wide, but there's no space to make it work. Almost nothing between them into the braking zone of launch, and Morpheus is through.
He does indeed get through, and a good move there, actually. Side by side through turn 15 is not an easy feat at all, but they managed it without any problems at all, so fair play. It was a good battle between the two of them. We also saw RSO by 5-star getting through on Project Dynamic there, who really don't want to be a part of that fight. I don't think that's been involved, because there's been a lot going on within it, and if they were to gain a position, it doesn't really matter because they're already winning their category, but if they were to crash, then it would be a real big disaster for them. So yeah, I don't think they really want to be there, but Jonas Albert has got to be anyway, and it continues on. But what can RSO do now is the question, because Pure Sims have had their go at the back of Olympus Esports. It might end up that Michael Evdoka has to defend from this Audi a little bit more over the next few minutes.
And Niels Benedict going to be looking everywhere with just under 15 minutes to go to try to work his way up to catch up to Michael Evdoka along with Thomas Cope up the road. And I'll tell you what, Olympus Esports has started to build a very small gap over the Pure Sims Esports BMW, which is a bit of an interesting factor, isn't it, to see that, you know, Cope has been able to build such a gap over them. It's an impressive feat of the Porsche, especially one that we haven't seen, you know, have too much pace so far. There's a swap for, I believe that was 10th place, Full Send Racing up the inside of the Rusty Spatula's GT3.
Yeah, exactly. Rusty Spatula's managed to get 3rd place in OAM just for the moment. And just a bit of an update on AM as well, as I try and find Westwood Racing Esports. The World of Sim Racing 151 have managed to get itself in front here over the last few moments in the AM category. As we see side by side here on your screens, Impulse Racing and Vector by RSR once again. This is the 256 Pro-Am car as well. I believe it's the Pro-Am car. It hasn't scored any points so far this season, but it certainly will be here. Up the inside.
Oh no!
Gone wrong. Inside at turn 4, and they're both in the barrier quite hard. Vector by RSR and Impulse Racing. Oh dear, it was bound to happen at some point. It's such a difficult corners to go side by side through, and it has just been proven.
Tried the inside, but I mean, Vector can't go anywhere. They have to turn in. They're going to go off the track. They had nowhere to go but turn into the Lamborghini on their inside, and that is a tremendous impact. Vector has got major damage as a result of that one, and Impulse, ironically, almost got away with that one with what appeared to be a little damage. They've lost a few spots since then, and they're going to be trying to just regather and try it again. Such unfortunate news for them, but for the other Impulse Racing Machine of the 257, it's gone wrong for them too, right? I mean, they're now a couple laps down at the moment, so it's all fallen apart for the 2nd race in a row for Impulse.
Yeah, it really has. They've been so unlucky in this championship. I don't know what it is, but they just keep getting hit by bad luck. As we say that, they get into 11th position with the 63 car, but that's a recovering entry after lap 1 problems at Cascades for the first time. So yeah, it's just not been their season so far. It really hasn't, unfortunately for them, but hopefully they can bounce back for the 2nd race here this afternoon. This battle's really settled down in the last few moments between Olympus Esports and Pure Sims. I say that, and he goes for it again at Knickerbrook. We saw how that went wrong with the 5 ending up in the gravel. If I was him, I wouldn't be going for it after that experience, but clearly Evdoka wants to get through.
I think what's kind of helped Thomas Cope to be out there for so long is the fact that he hasn't been throwing all sorts of really nasty blocks. But you've seen it a couple of times, the 5-star Porsche, they were blocking left and right and even pushed Evdoka off the track a couple of times or forced him back out, and they both would have crashed as a result of all the aggressive blocks he was throwing. And the Olympus Esports machine, I'll say, on the defense game has been more courteous, let's say, than the 5-star machine was. And I think that's why Pure Sims at the moment was looking to potentially cut a little bit of slack. And how about target fixation? Both cars running wide, exact same distance off the track as Evdoka tries to reel in Thomas Cope. But like I said, I have a feeling that's why Pearsons has been giving him a bit more courtesy here and being able to kind of race them a bit cleaner.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a clean battle between these two so far, but I don't think anything 5-star Motorsport were doing was too in the wrong. But it could certainly be seen as a little bit aggressive, yeah, certainly, because defending like that around here does often mean that you do stay in front, since it is so difficult to overtake anyway. So yeah, it's a difficult balance to get right, and unfortunately 5-star Motorsport ended up in the gravel because of it, losing out on probably about 25 points in the end. But they will try and get their revenge in the next race, as we've got a battle going on a little bit further down between BMW and a Porsche. Looks like this is Rusty Spatulas and Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport, with the 69 car just in behind the RSR, but Rusty Spatulas not really interested in staying in front. Now, I think they're doing something very, very clever here. Because they're a Pro-Am car, they've accepted that VEC Sim Racing, being nearly over 10 seconds down the road, they're not actually going to get second place. So if they let the Pro cars through, because the grid order for the next race is sorted by overall order and not class order, the top 20 is reversed from the overall. Yeah, look at this, they're just pulling out the way. So I think they're letting cars through. They're not losing points doing this, because these are Pro cars they're letting through, but they are gaining positions in the grid order. This is very clever, very heads up. I'm surprised we've not seen it so far, because it was certainly an idea that came into my head during the last round, certainly. So they're letting the Pro cars through, as we see this battle between a couple of the Pro cars, Olympus Esports and Pure Sims Esports. Michael Evdoka looks like he's finally got through on Thomas Cope after following him for the last 10 minutes or so. He's got the inside line into his lops, and maybe this is his moment. Through he goes, the BMW finally into 4th position.
I get a little bit argy-bargy over the Shell Oil's hairpin, kind of moving Thomas Cope up and out of the way, as there was a bit of a mistake for him. Took a look at the replay of this one, how it all started.
Oh,
yeah, just muscled his way in there. Didn't allow Olympus Esports much room there.
No, absolutely not. It was a very hard manoeuvre indeed, but probably a fair one, I would say. A little bit of contact, but it was probably a fair manoeuvre in the end, and considering it is so difficult to pass here, you do need to use the bumper a little bit. This is the other Olympus Esports car, or another Olympus Esports car, the battle for 15th, and Mag Performance Junior team are a little bit further down for this, so don't be surprised if you see Rusty Spatulas letting these guys through as well, because these guys are Pro cars, and so they can gain positions in the overall order, can Rusty Spatulas, and maybe even take a race victory in Pro-Am in the next race. Let's wait and see if they can manage that or not. But there's just under 7 minutes to go. Ronin Academy looking to try and get through, but not able to into that corner at the very least. One of the one of the Impulse Racing cars just behind, but they are a lap down. This battle for 15th. And Ronin Academy for the moment can't quite find a way through, and Olympus Esports do look like they're highly on the defensive.
Shades of the battle earlier on with Olympus Esports as well, along with the machine that had just worked through them further up the grid. But you can see so far in the battle for 16th place, the Ronin Academy of Lamborghini has not been able to work his way through, and they have to kind of watch out for Impulse behind them. Now, yes, they are a couple laps down, but that Impulse racing car is definitely faster. I have a feeling that the 257 is going to just kind of sit in behind here. You don't want to be, a car that's 2 laps down, splitting up a battle like this between 2 different Pro drivers for position in the final 6 minutes of a race, do you?
No, not really. At this stage, down into his lops again. But no way through into what has been the biggest opportunity for an overtake, other than maybe turn 1. And the hairpin, of course, as well, which has been used a little bit, but this corner coming up here certainly hasn't. Turn 15, where it's very difficult to go side by side through, but it's a wonderfully committed corner to drive on your own, as you can see right now. And rusty spatulas are getting caught by these guys, and I think that's by design. We'll see if they do indeed let these two through, or if they decide that they will stay in front. But very clever from them, to be fair, to realise that and be slowing down towards the end. I just hope it doesn't get out of hand later on in the season, because we do sometimes see that in the reverse grid races, or races where you do get ballast for certain things. It does get out of hand sometimes with those particular interactions where people are trying to slow down to let cars through and nobody wants to go through, and it can get over the top.
So Conan Verne going to continue to work his way out to Daniel Merchant in that Olympus Esports Ferrari, and still trying to apply as much pressure as possibly can. I wonder if some of the damage on that Lamborghini is kind of hindering his ability to go for the position here. He's got some pretty hefty right front damage. His rear wing is kind of crumpled up along with the diffuser, so that's probably hindering just how much speed he has. Not going to stop him, sending one on the inside on the Hislop chicane. And tell you what, the Merchant was caught completely unawares of that one. Did not expect at all to see Ronan Academy throwing out the inside, and talk about getting taken by surprise.
Yeah, I bet he did get taken by surprise there. That was very late on the brakes for Ronan Academy, but it didn't look accidental at all. It looked like that was completely planned there, and a very well executed move in the end as well on the Olympus Esports car, the 64. So yeah, both of those cars getting overtaken and demoted places in the last few moments, but we're really not far away from the race's end. These guys are about a minute behind the race leader, who I believe is about to cross onto his penultimate lap in about 30 seconds time. But we haven't mentioned No Nonsense Racing very much at all, but barely ever really in this race, but we haven't really had to talk about them. Aidan Shambot has just been demolishing the field completely on his own here today. There is the car. Well, there's not it's 3 laps to go. That's going to be. He's going to cross the line with a few seconds remaining. So 3 laps to go for Aidan Shambot. But what can you say about him? He's been really, really good so far today. But considering the performances of the rest of the season, I'm a little bit surprised. Because not that they've been bad, but they haven't been quite this good so far. But no, this is very, very impressive indeed.
Especially considering the fact that they're in a Porsche. I mean, how many times nowadays on iRacing do you see a Porsche 911 GT3 winning in a GT3 race? I mean, even in the official races, it's usually all BMW or all Audi, you know, up in front. This is really the first time I've ever seen the Porsche in any GT race that's not dedicated to Porsches being so far at the front and so dominant as well. I mean, 7.7 seconds over the latest Audi. This would, of course, be the first win for Porsche on the season so far, which would be great news for Aidan Shambot to be the driver to bring it home for No Nonsense Racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think he's been doing this one on his own, by the way. He did start, definitely qualified the car. And I'm fairly sure he started it as well. You do get to do that once a season. I believe the regulations is that it's once a season, isn't it? You can do the races by yourself. Because Oscar Coper did it last race at Barber to great effect, and maybe we see a similar situation to Oscar Coper in terms of how he drives here today. You know, what's Aidan Shambot going to do in the reverse race? How is he going to get through the field is what I'm looking forward to.
Nissan Ferrari off the road, just up the road. That was Martin Tilley and the Team Oblivion 164, losing out in the place to the BSTV Esports machine. That was the battle for 23rd and 24th place overall. So still a couple of battles elsewhere on the track, but now Tilley giving up on that battle will allow himself to be lapped here by Aidan Shambot.
There's a battle for 20th going on as well, which is going to be very important for the outcome of at least the start of the second race that we're going to see here this afternoon, because top 20 are reversed. Westwood Racing Esports, the second place car in AM at the moment, trailing the World of Sim Racing team, are currently 20th, ahead of Talk Freak Racing, who are currently 21st, as Impulse Racing make their way through on Full Send Racing. Back into the top 10, and considering the start that they had, it's a respectable drive from not only Hendrik Augustin, but also Linus Technow, who's now in that car.
It hasn't been the best of runs for Linus Technow, has. I mean, it's kind of just all gone wrong for Impulse Racing, but there is still one more 1 hour race left on the day, so there is still the potential that he can work himself up and have a solid finish, and potentially could go for one more if he can get back past the VC sim racing machine. He's going to have one lap to do so this time by the line, but he's close enough. He can make it work.
Could do, but he decided not to at this stage. I think he's come so far that he'd rather not throw it all away, but certainly does want to get through as the seconds are dying out now in race 1. These guys are about half a lap behind the leader, Champolt, who is now on his final lap. Oh, RSO have underfueled. RSO have underfueled here in the 197. So they drop out of a podium place. Goodness me, we talk about it all the time, especially in endurance racing. You don't expect it in an hour-long race, but they've underfueled.
Oh, and how about Impulse around the outside of EC Sim Racing? They are going to go for the push and try to pick up 9th place. VC Sim Racing in the 724 going to have to try to fight back here. Still have the inside line up for 1. Impulse not clear now. Maybe clear. You can still see the BMW trying to work up the inside. Not going to happen though for VC Sim Racing. So Impulse Racing is going to try to... Oh, here's a lunge down the inside of turn 2 on the final lap. And that's going to leave Reichsbauer to get back through.
You can tell it's the final lap. There's nothing being left on the table here, and there won't be through the turn 4 here. Side by side through the fastest corner on the circuit. They all hold on to it somehow. Goodness me, into the hairpin. The Impulse Racing car on the inside shoves out the VC Sim Racing Pro-Am entry, who goes onto the grass and has to concede. Goodness me, what a battle that was right to the very end. But Aidan Champolt comes over the line, past the pits, and will celebrate. No Nonsense Racing win the first race at Oulton Park in the HyperX GT Sprint Series. That was absolutely fantastic from him. Nearly 10 seconds over championship leaders Maniti Racing, and Pure Sims Esports are going to be on the podium after RSO underfueled, and they'll end up finishing in 8th position. But what a fantastic race with great battles going on up and down the field, and a very worthy winner as well.
A very worthy winner, and for the battles further down the order, this one for 9th place, Leon Erger not nearly close enough for the Full Send Racing 96 to have a run here on Linus Technow. So Technow will pick up a solid 9th place, really fighting that one out to the bitter end. And Erger will pick up a surprise top 10.
Yeah, by the looks of things. So we've got a battle still going on towards the end here. This is Mag Performance getting their ears boxed a little bit. Down the inside for Cube Racing in the Lamborghini at the very final corner of the race, who managed to get themselves through. And Woodersim Racing in their AM car managed to get 20th position there, I believe, or 19th, excuse me, to take the AM victory for those guys ahead of Westwood Racing Esports, who hold on to finish inside the top 20, which is very important for them. But what a great race that was, very enjoyable here at Oulton Park, and only one winner at the end, Aidan Champolt and No Nonsense Racing, who took it from Maniti Racing nearly 10 seconds of a margin. Pure Sims Esports, after being involved in fights, especially through the second half of that race, held off Olympus Esports, RSO by 5-star and Project Dynamic for that position. 5-star Motorsport, after their spin into the gravel, was 7th from Maximilian Fritz. Robin Haas dropped back to 8th position after underfueling the car during that race. Linus Technow managed to get into 9th with that late pass on Full Send Racing, who managed to complete the race in 10th position. Moving down to the next 10, VC Sim Racing comes 2nd in Pro-Am and 11th overall, ahead of Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport, RSR by G Performance, and Rusty Spatulas, who were 14th in the end, and of Ronin Academy, Olympus Esports and Cube Racing, who managed to make that last lap pass on Mag Performance at Pro-Am for 17th. Then the AM winners, World of Sim Racing, beating out Westwood Racing Esports, the championship leaders, by about 4.5 seconds. And that rounds out your top 20 after 41 laps of racing. Then we've got Vector by RSR, who were in that big spin, if you remember, at turn 4. BSTV Esports were next, out of Team Oblivion Racing, who were leading AM for a while. V-Racers 24th ahead of the other World of Sim Racing car, Kazar Sim Racing, next ahead of Top Freak Racing, who had a terrible time of things, I'm really afraid to say. Even that spin at turn 1 started off their day as it meant to go on. VC Sim Racing were 28th ahead of a couple of Impulse Racing cars. Once again, a team in real trouble as Kazar Sim Racing finished 31st, excuse me. The 68 did get to the flag, I believe. However, they won't be picking up very many points for that. Naomi by Awesome Motorsport with 33rd, ahead of Simtech Motorsport, who retired after flipping onto their roof at the end of the first lap. Well, that was a very interesting race, I have to say, Nolan. We suspected at the start of this broadcast that Oulton Park might be a little bit difficult to overtake at, but it hasn't proved to be that way by the looks of things. I don't want to say it was easy, but the racing was good.
Once again, the HyperX GT Sprint Series shows that you can really just pass anywhere. They can take any track, doesn't matter how difficult it is to make an overtake. They'll find a way to turn it into one of the most entertaining GT3 races you can find out there on the service.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some interviews to get through as well. We've got a little bit of time, really, before we really get into the next part of the broadcast because, we've got a little bit of stuff to sort out, etc. between race 1 and race 2, not least the grid itself. So we're going to do that, and I'll start off with Maniti Racing's Tim Matska, who is now going to join us here for a little bit of a chat between the two races. Tim, welcome to the broadcast booth once again. It's good to have you here. First of all, second place for Maniti Racing. Is that a pleasing result if you just look at it in isolation, not taking in account all of the stuff that happened during the race? Is that a positive result for Maniti Racing being coming home second?
Yeah, definitely. Hello, first of all. Thanks for having me. Yeah, definitely positive, I think. We also beat everyone we're fighting against in the championship right now. I think we can be very happy with the result and carry on to race 2 with a positive feeling, I think. Just gonna make sure to survive now.
I want to see as well, because you benefited from a lot of the battles that were going on between Pure Sims, etc. They were battling it out with everyone, it seemed. How important is it to stay out of all the battles during the next race? Because obviously you've got to battle with a lot of people starting from 19th, which you're going to do, but we saw how advantageous running in clean air was around here during the previous hour. So how are you going to manage that, trying to get through everyone but stay in clean air all at the same time?
Well, I think it's not gonna be possible to stay in clean air, and it will be really hard to avoid battles. I guess just have to look at the situation you find yourself in and then decide when to pit, because that's really the only option you have in terms of staying out of battles. We were able to, I think our strategy worked really well. We jumped 2 cars in the pits and then also had fresh tires. So the strategy was on point with when we pitted with the lapped cars and the others fighting. Everything played into our hands with that. But in the second race, well, you have a 10-minute window to pit, so you kind of have to see, do I stay in the traffic I'm in now, or do I pit and hope for clean air? But you could as well just end up in a different battle, or just other cars that are even slower maybe. So I think you just have to react to the situation and be a bit lucky as well where you come out if you decide to pit early.
Yeah, of course, a little bit of luck does help. But Tim, thanks very much for coming to join us. It's good to chat to you, and good luck for the next hour in the reverse grid race.
Yeah, have fun. See you. Ciao.
Thanks very much to Tim Matska of Maniti Racing, who has joined us now. We've got a couple more here. Nolan, I'll bring in Aidan Shabbo, if you wouldn't mind having a quick chat with our race winner from race 1.
I would not mind at all. So, Aidan Shabot, you joined us up here in the broadcast booth. First win for Porsche this season, and I have to say, in dominated fashion in race 1.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd be that far ahead. I thought everyone was sandbagging quite a lot, but then in the end, it works out.
So obviously, throughout your end of things, you didn't have too many battles to have to worry about, like some of the drivers further down the order did. But obviously, Oulton Park, not the most easy track to overtake on. So I'm feeling it's a pleasant experience for you to be able to be so far in front. You didn't have to worry about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, once we got the pole in qualifying, I was just thinking how it's basically Monaco basically won it from there. As long as you get through T1, it's pretty much done for.
Of course, that's not going to be the case in race number 2. You've got yourself now starting down at 20th place. You think you'll be able to work your way back up and finish on the podium for a second time in a row?
It will be very difficult. It's so difficult to overtake round here. It's going to be a challenge, but we'll see what we can do.
And sometimes that's all you have to do is just try to gather things up, see what you can do, and hope that things can kind of fall together into your hands. It certainly felt that way for you in race number 1, and hopefully it'll be the same way in race number 2. Good luck.
Thank you.
That was Aiden Shadbolt in the No Knots racing number 20, winning race 1 in dominant fashion here, Ewan, and looking to potentially have a good run as well in race 2, although he is going to have his work cut out for him.
He certainly is, but we look forward to seeing how he deals with that in about 10 minutes' time when we get underway. We do have a couple more. Let's bring in Thomas Cope from the Olympus Esports team to have a quick chit-chat about race 1 with him. Welcome along, Thomas. Good to have you here. You had a great fight with Pure Sims and, well, with everybody, really. It was a great train. We were glued to it throughout the race. It was very entertaining for us indeed. But what was it like to drive it? It looked a bit crazy, I must be honest.
It definitely was very crazy. You hear me? Yeah. It was very crazy in the car. It was making quite a few moves up the inside, which I was trying to block off, but he was doing a good job trying to do what he could. Just happy that he didn't put me off in the end.
Well, absolutely. It's easy to make contacts around here, I guess, and easy for things to go wrong. One more thing as well, because we saw so many battles in terms of pack battles in the last race. We're likely to see a lot of that in race 2. How are you looking forward to working your way through the order? You're going to be starting quite a long way back in this race.
Yeah, it's going to be very different. I've not had such a far back start. I'm going to be doing my best to get up as much as I can, and I haven't had the best of luck so far with the second race start. Obviously, race 1, we had the incident in T1, the big carnage at Hungary, and then Barbara had the big incident that kind of ruined the whole race, and then I had my own disconnection issues soon after, so hoping for some makeup after those sort of incidents.
Yeah, and one bonus question as well, I must say. How's it like driving the whole hour on your own on this occasion? Because normally you'd swap drivers halfway through, but you're just going the full distance today.
It's not hard. I mean, I do a lot of sim racing in terms of endurance races, and we do 2-3-hour stints, so the 1 hour race and the 15 minutes between is alright, and it's a good break, and a good chance to chill out and relax and regather up for the next. So looking forward for another hour. We'll see how it goes. Just unfortunate, obviously, Lubov couldn't make it today, so I'm here on my own, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we look forward to seeing you both back for Belle Isle. But in the more immediate future, I'll wish you luck for the next hour or so at race 2 here at Oulton Park. We'll let you go and get yourself ready. But yeah, thanks for coming to talk to us and good luck.
Thank you. Enjoy the stream, guys.
Thomas Cope of Olympus Esports, who put in a good performance during that first race. We'll be hoping to repeat that with the second one that we have coming up in just under 5 minutes' time. Warm-up is going on. The guys will be in between resting and preparing for what's going to be a crazy second race here, Nolan. I wouldn't know quite how to tackle it, really, because I wouldn't be reassured exactly by what I saw through the opening lap. The opening lap wasn't too bad through race 1. Yeah, there were a few incidents here and there, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been, certainly. But in terms of the racing that we saw, the intensity of the battles that we saw, it was really entertaining. I really enjoyed it. However, these drivers, when they're trying to get a result, definitely won't be enjoying it. So, that would, if I was a driver, I would be even more worried than I was before the day, actually, heading into this race now.
And of course, as we've seen at tracks at the Barber Motorsports Park and the Hungaroring, it only grows in intensity when you get down to that second racing course with the top 20 reverse grid, which could mean we are in for one heck of a show coming up in front of us. And you wonder how it's going to play out, right? I mean, we saw about a total of 3-4 incidents within the first couple of laps here. It could easily be double that by the time we get to the end of just the first lap with how this grid could work out, especially since it's worth noting that the restart zone that they have set out where drivers have to wait for where they can go is actually after iRacing waves their own green flag. So in that first race, you had a couple of guys deeper in the field that hadn't realized the field wasn't going yet, and they actually started to accelerate and kind of check themselves up, and that's where a couple of the damage on some of the front end of one of the Porsches had come from earlier on in this race. And that's only going to be amplified here in race 2.
Yeah, that kind of checking up and going again, it just gets dangerous very quickly, as we've seen many a time in the past. But a little bit of housekeeping for you at home to take care of while we're in the warm-up session for the second race here at Oulton Park. First of all, a reminder of the series sponsor here at IVRA, the HyperX GT Sprint Series, the official gaming peripheral sponsor here. If you ever need kind of peripherals and all that kind of side of things, then make sure you check them out. Go visit them and check them out, because yeah, they do have the best in the business, so worth going to have a look. And also, of course, the Easter egg competition that we have going on this season. At the end, you'll be able to fill in all of the details. This is what you're looking for here this week for this particular race. There's something that you're looking for every week, in case you're not quite up to speed with what this is. Yeah, there's something to be looking out for on the stream every week, and yeah, that is what you're looking for this week. So yeah, good luck with the Easter egg competition with you at home, as well as you hopefully will be enjoying this GT Sprint Series action. It's been a great season so far. As I've said at the start, it's fast becoming my favourite race of the week, really. There's a non-stop action and a very good championship shaping up here. Munich Racing did put a few points into their rivals with the underfueling of Robin Haas and that RSO car. In the end, Munich only gained 9 points over Pure Sims. So heading into this race, they're 16 points apart, but that is absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things.
And I have a feeling that Pure Sims probably could have finished up higher, right? I mean, they could have finished up in second place, but they were so busy duking it out with 5-Star Motorsport as well as Olympus Esports that they just lost all the time that they probably gained. I mean, by the time that battle got sorted out, they had lost 7 seconds up to Munich Racing, showing just how crucial it is that if you are going to start a battle and you're trying to go for position further up the road, you have to get it done quickly. You cannot afford to just wait around.
No, you definitely can't. And yeah, an hour does sound like a long time, but here you do have to take your chances when they do arise. Project Dynamic, I mean, what more can we say about them? It was another dominant performance from them in Pro-Am. You know, nobody seems to have an answer for them at the moment.
Nobody seems to have that answer for them, and I mean, I'm going to be keeping my eyes on a no-nonsense race, and obviously, you know, first Porsche win by 9.9 seconds of the season so far, where otherwise it's just been Audis and BMWs up there on victory lane, and seeing a Porsche up there gives the potential for, you know, other manufacturers to work their way up onto victory lane as well. You have to wonder, though, if they'll be able to pull it off again from P20 on the grid.
Yeah, absolutely. The reverse grid race is coming up here in the next few moments on Racebot TV. The IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series springing into life to reach the halfway point in this season. 3 rounds out of the 6 will be complete. After this one, 6 races out of the 12 will be finished. And we're shaping up very nicely for a good end to the year. It's Benjamin Oppenkulski who's going to be taking the green flag alongside the Wood Sim Racing team. That's an AM battle, by the way, on the front row of the field. Then we've got Mag Performance Junior Team, the first of the Pro-Am cars. They're the first of the Pro cars with Cube Racing, Olympus Esports and Ronin Academy will be on the 3rd row together. In 7th position, we're going to be seeing Rusty Spatulas alongside RSR by G Performance or BMW on that row, followed by a Porsche and Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport, and rounding out the top 10, it's VC Sim Racing. Then we've got Full Send Racing, Impulse Racing in 12th position. RSO are in 13th ahead of 5-Star Motorsport, 14th. Project Dynamic, the Pro-Am winners from last time, 15th ahead of RSO by 5-Star. Max Reed Muller ahead of Thomas Cope in 17th. Michael Advoca trying to do better off than third place last time. 18th for him. Andreas Thiel and Aiden Champo rounding out the top 20. Then we've got Vector by RSR, BSTV Esports on row 11. And Team Oblivion and V-Racers on row 12. 25th for these guys. It is World of Sim Racing ahead of Kazar Sim Racing. Talk Freak and VEC Sim Racing are on the next row together. It's an all Impulse 15th row ahead of 31st position Kazar Sim Racing. RSR by G Performance 68 is such a long way back. They've got a lot of work to do. Then they have Niobe by Awesome Motorsport, then Simtech on the final row of the grid. Everybody sets themselves up then for the second race here at Oulton Park. It's a completely new look to the front of this grid, but we've got the same fantastic variety of machinery that we always have in the HyperX GT Sprint Series. Audi, BMW, Ferrari and Lamborghini all up there towards the front. And we do indeed have the Audi in control of the field. Now the green flag is in the air. We are racing once again. It's a fantastic start on the left-hand side from one of the BMWs, getting down the inside of the back performance car for second place as well. But look at the Audi out front go. Absolutely fantastic start from Westwood Esports. It's already kicked off in the background. The green, oh, and it's kicked off in the foreground as well. Goodness me, there's a number of cars off the road. A Lamborghini into the barrier, quite hard there. Ferrari involved with them as well. It's chaos in the background. Oh, it's not over yet. Another one of the BMWs goes around. Goodness me, what's going to happen into the hairpin? As you can see, the Rusty Spatula's car tries to make up positions. Which of the pro cars towards the back of the field is picking off the cars well, though? That is the question. Which cars are getting through the chaos well? And that is what's going to win you the race.
Isaac Barkley also had to spin further down in the background. You can see the battle still kicking up. It looks like Andreas Thielsel in the BT Racing Machine trying to find his way down the inside. He's got major damage on the back end already. Looking up the inside line, you can see into the chicane. It's still all sorts of chaos. No nonsense. Racing's of Aiden Shabble has not been able to go anywhere so far off the start of this race. It has gone all sorts of wrong for so many drivers throughout the field, and this looks to continue to pick on up as this race starts to develop. You see Adam Isaacson in the 5-star Motorsports HyperX machine trying to find his way up the inside of the Impulse Racing Lamborghini. Oh, look out! Oh, Thomas Cope! Hard into the wall! That's a tremendous shunt underneath the bridge, and that's going to take out a handful of drivers, and 3 wide as a result of that one. And here you can see the wreck on turn 2, and the Ferrari just Austin powers it into the wall, gets himself beached. Pure Sims of Ivanka into pit road early. So Pure Sims is going to be hugely hampered now in this race, as just now Cope finally gets going from his spin further in the back.
There is drama with the championship then as Pure Sims pull their way into pit lane. Damage on the championship leading car as well. This is the other Olympus Esports car. We saw the Ferrari of their fleet go off a little bit earlier. This is Thomas Cope going around into the wall very hard, and it was into the Pure Sims car that he spun back out, and that is why he is into the pit lane. Aiden Chapeau was very nearly involved in that one as well. He picked his way through the carnage. Beniti Racing, there is the Audi. Only 15th for them. Not a lot of these pro cars not able to pick their way through the order that easy. We still have an AM car leading, a pro AM car in second. What's happened further back with World of Sim Racing and Impulse, the 51 car, the pro AM World of Sim Racing car. Oh, this is going to hurt. Ouch. The BMW into the barriers, I'm afraid, and that's going to be a big repair for them. A lot of chaos early on in this one. Here's the 5-star Motorsport car in the number 5 in 13th position. So none of the cars, I was going to say, which cars pick off the opening laps very well, often go on to win, but none of the cars have really done it great. I guess the best of them, Team RSO, the 197, they're looking good so far.
Just put themselves up into 6th place. Looking at the inside of RSR by G Performance of Anthony Bassano for 5th place. Look at how tight that gets on the back bumper of the BMW. Looking left, looking right. Nebelsic opens up the inside and is going to send one down the inside of Bassano through turn 2. Picks up now 5th place. So already Nebelsic has gone from 13th to 5th. Here comes Skella trying to find one up the inside now. As you can see what happened to David Barraclough as well. Just a spin of the exit of the final corner through Lodge. Hard into the barriers. Skella trying to look up the inside of Anthony Bassano, coming through the very fast left-hander up in towards the Shell Oil's hairpin, but it wasn't happening.
No, absolutely not. So looking up front at the moment, We've got Mag Performance looking like they're trying to go down the inside of Westwood Racing Esports, but not able to for the moment. Project Dynamic, the Pro-Am winners from the first 5 rounds, are looking very strong on the back of their rivals VEC Sim Racing. Rusty Spatula's not too far behind. Here's what happened to VEC Sim Racing, their other car. Oh, they got hit by, I think that's the 68.
Oh,
Dear me. Not Oscar Coper, he's handed over to his co-driver. They've already made their way up the order to 21st. Boris Ango Avando got into the back of the Rusty Spatula's car. Impulse Racing now applying the pressure to Project Dynamic, so they're down the inside. And it's difficult to know where to look at the moment as RSO make up another position as well, side by side with the 2 Lamborghinis. Impulse Racing on the inside line, Project Dynamic on the outside, and they're going to win out by the looks of things.
The push wide through turn 1 though, but Impulse is forced to tuck back in line. Up front, there you see Porsche trying to go on the outside of Pisano. RSR is under fire by Morpheus here. And Skella trying to find the inside line, but Pisano making that a wide BMW, as wide as the track itself. No room for Skella to make up a pass, and it'll remain 69 in front of the 72 up into the oil shells hairpin. Look out for Impulse under fire from 5-Star Motorsport on the left-hand side of the screen. It's just carnage wherever you look at the moment. Drivers trying to dice left and right, trying to make up these spots early before they lose too much ground up to the guys themselves. Don't discount that race lead battle as well. Just a quarter of a second separating them. That is potentially heat up at any time. There's a lunge from 5-Star up the inside of Impulse, putting the Lamborghini down another place.
That is a nice move into 11th position for the 5 as they make their way up the order, putting distance between themselves and Maniti, who are struggling to be even inside the top 16 at the moment. 17th position for Andreas Thiel. I think that damage that you highlighted on that one here is actually hurting them, because they're not making progress and they're not doing the pace that they were side by side a little bit further back. This is even outside the top 20, where battles are still going on. The battle for the lead is also going on, because Ronin Academy have managed to get themselves involved now ahead of Mag Performance finally, and now applying the pressure to Westwood Racing Esports. Here's Aiden Chapeau down the inside. He goes one of the BMWs. Full Send Racing going to get the inside line for Cascade, which might mean they're going to go through here. Impulse Racing waiting on behind. Andreas Thiel of Maniti also waiting in the wings, but no way through just for the moment. Battles absolutely everywhere.
And there you can see up in front, Westwood under serious fire. Here comes Ronin Academy for the race lead up the inside line, and Obukowski not able to defend at all. Van de Wedge is going to go up into the race lead now easily before they get down to the hairpin. I have a feeling that the 87 car just kind of let them have them. I mean, they're already in the AM race lead. That's a pro car ahead of them now. No point in battling that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be a near miracle if they managed to hold on to the overall lead. There's a big moment for Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport. They dropped down the order, and I can only guess what's happened at Knickerbrook. Somebody has nicked their nose on the inside line when it wasn't really needed. Or what? Did they do this on their own? There's no car near them. Oh, no. Oh. Stefan Scheller, he's in such a good place in this race, and he'll be kicking himself.
Bad news for himself, so that is not good at all for Skella, but still has lots of time to make those places back up before the end of this race. And you can see up in front, the Ferrari still trying to poke his way past the Audi. That is Mag Performance looking at the inside of Team RSO. But Nebelcek keeps Carbonari at bay for the time being. Just behind them, it's a double BMW battle for 5th place. RSR, driven by Anthony Bassano, up the inside of Del Olmo. Oh, and dumps the 157 machine! And was that on purpose? I mean, left him absolutely zero space to even start turning into the corner.
And it's all stacked up behind. Rusty Spatula's going side by side with VEC Sim Racing, who've gone out wide and into the barriers very nearly. 5-Star Motorsport go out wide. They lose 3 places. Goodness me. RSO are going to try and get through on Impulse now, who are now battling over 8th position. Rusty Spatula's under pressure from Project Dynamic finally for 2nd place in Pro-Am. Side by side into Hislopson. RSO have to give that one up. Aiden Chapeau is in 10th position now. Watches on from behind. What on earth was going on there? That was messy. World of Sim Racing going around. They're going to be disappointed. VC Sim Racing as well. 5-Star Motorsport just seemed to follow them off, drive wide, and lost 3 places themselves. This is craziness at the moment. Rusty Spatula is at the front of the train. What on earth happened here?
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, what can you say about that? World of Sim Racing going for a 360. They managed to hold on to it well. At least they've got no damage, but they've lost a lot of positions, more than 10.
It's a solid save for World of Sim Racing, but I have to say, that's a save that didn't need to be made. I mean, come on, you could tell that pass was never going to work, and I mean, it didn't leave them any room to even start turning into the corner, let alone make the corner altogether. Take a look at that one there. That was Project Dynamic looking around the outside of one of the BMWs of the Rusty Spatulas. That doesn't go anywhere. Here's another incident. Team Oblivion way off through Druids and hard head on into the barrier. Impulse, though, found the inside. Project Dynamic now up the inside of Rusty Spatulas. Gonna try to squeeze out the 313 out through the bandit through the oil shells. Hairpin. Impulse now is clear of this train. They're going to get set now to potentially try to run down the race leaders. There'll be another swap for second place up the road as once again Opakowski letting one of the pro cars through, picking his battles here wisely, not fighting with cars he doesn't need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Side by side, RSO down the inside of Project Dynamic, who are trying. Jumbo very nearly got into the back of them as well. 5-Star Motorsport go through, and now it looks like the 257 might be able to as well with Impulse Racing. Can they? Not quite. But goodness me, this is high intensity at the moment. Finally, some of these cars are getting through on the Pro-Am ones who are just trying to have their own battles, really, and they've got just as much right to be here as the others, but they realise that when there's no points up for grabs, I think it makes people more aggressive because they know that they just need to get, it's just a matter of getting through or not. It's not actually putting your rivals down or anything. You just have to get through on them and you're not gaining anything from doing it. So I think it makes you even more aggressive in a way. But what we've seen so far is a wonderful train of battling cars at the moment. Ronin Academy and Team RSO have managed to get themselves away from it all to battle for the lead between themselves. But, you know, these guys are so involved in a battle. These are the main players in the race, maybe the championship as well, but I can't see them getting to the race lead the way this is going.
No, certainly not. I mean, they're not going to work their way up there by a long shot at this point. I mean, this battle itself is over 10 seconds back. There's a look up the inside, and Rusty Spatula losing a lot of spots there. Lost down to Project Dynamic and Team RSO. So I wonder if something has happened to the 313, or if he just let them through on his own will. I mean, Project Dynamic went through, and it looks like that was the case. I mean, Rusty Spatula just wasn't looking to fight that one out.
I think that the RSO car got down the inside just normally, and the Project Dynamic car took very good advantage of that, and because he wasn't quite on the bottom of the banking there, it did look like he wasn't going anywhere in the Rusty Spatula's car. But I think it was just because he was on the outside line and so on. So either way, Project Dynamic are now through into second in Pro-Am. Mag Performance Junior team are leading in Pro-Am a few seconds up the road. This is what happened. A dive down the inside from RSO and a great opportunistic driving from Yanis Albert, I would say.
And Albert certainly made it work, though. Sometimes you have to be opportunistic to get spots up in a race, right? I mean, there's a great move there from Project Dynamic. I can see Adam Isaacson, 5-Star Motorsport, still trying to look at the inside of Rusty Spatulas. Sapala looking to potentially fall further down the order. The 313 hanging it wide, letting the Porsche have the space at the inside line, but still gets pushed towards the right-hand side of the track at the exit of turn number 2. And got Aiden Shadwell, just the wings, filling up the rear-facing camera on Isaacson in the middle of that cockpit, letting know he is there. Isaacson down the inside of the oil shells hairpin. Doesn't get to stop in time. Bit of a bumper there and a hip check. Gonna make his way through, and Shadwell takes advantage. He goes up on Rusty Spatulas, and here comes Impulse Racing's 257. Also trying to get some speed up as well. That Lamborghini is looking very, very strong and is right on the cusp of being able to punch his way into the top 10. Going to make the spot up on Rusty Spatulas. Trying for those nonsense racing as well, but just doesn't have the space.
Goodness me. A lot of positions lost there for the 313. And the couple of Porsches and Lamborghini go through with relative ease. The 63 Lamborghini has got through on the 69 RSR by G Performance car as well in the last few moments for 5th position in the overall race and 3rd position in the pro category. So this race is all kicking off right now. We saw it Hungaroring and Bar, but at this stage in the race the pro cars were swarming the top 5, but we've got an AM car in 3rd at the moment, and they're not really under fire that much. So this just shows that the battling costs you so much at Oulton Park that I think this is between Ronin Academy and Team RSO for the win already. We already know who's going to be 1 and 2. In quite what order, we don't know, unless they really start fighting a lot. But these guys have already been involved in so many fights that it's impossible to count them as potential race winners, I would say.
Look further in the background, Munich Racing up the inside of VC Sim Racing up towards the bend, and they're going to make that pass work through Island Bend and through Shell Oil's corner. Here comes Full Send Racing going full send up the inside of the hairpin. And full sending VC off the track.
It's the 68 is going to capitalise. Goodness me, where'd they come from? They're in the top 15 all of a sudden. World of Sim Racing gets up a position because of that as well. But yeah, that did look a little bit rude through the banked bit of hairpin there. Goodness me, that was yeah, a bit of a hip check and probably not necessary either. But it's not the widest track in the world, is it? So I guess these things do happen. But Full Send Racing continue on with their day, I suppose. Yeah, have a look at this again. Just a track narrowing, or was this Full Send Racing a bit opportunistic, maybe? Hard to tell, really.
50-50. 50-50, I would say.
Yeah, 50-50 is probably a good assessment of things, really. Project Dynamic on the back of the 69 car, by the looks of things. Team RSO by 5-star just up in front as well. But the problem that Project Dynamic have is that these two cars are separating them from the real battle, which is the Pro-Am leaders, who are 5 seconds up the road.
So it's not good news that they want to go for that Pro-Am lead, of course. So they're going to have to kind of work things together here and try to work their way around. And we'll kind of take a bit of a look here as to how this could play out. You can see Pisano losing a bit of time back to the Project Dynamic Lamborghini, driven by Yannis Albert at the moment, the 21 car. He's doing a solid job so far up in P8 overall. Looks for the inside of Pisano. Pisano trying to cover. Gotta leave the space though, and Albert gonna find one down the inside. Drag race of the late breakers. Oh, there's a bit more contact, but Pisano gets that spot done. He'll have to fall back into one, it would say.
Oh, bit of a dive. An attempt at a dive for the 257 there. But nothing really doing for them. So yeah, these battles continue on. Less than 10 minutes until we see the pit stop window open, and for some that cannot come soon enough, because these guys do want to get out of traffic quite badly. Oh, as we've seen, Ronin Academy are back. I thought we'd lost our race leaders then, but they're back, thankfully. So all is good there. Ronin Academy versus Team RSO is still going on up front, but it's not really a battle just for the moment, which is why we're not seeing it, because 1.3 seconds Tanguy van der Veege has got over Cedric Nibelsek. It may turn into one later on in the race, but for now they're still a second and a bit apart. Going through turn 1, a number of cars all at once. VC Sim Racing looking to get back up through the order after getting their ears boxed for the last 10 minutes or so. But they're down in 18th now, I'm afraid, as the Awesome Motorsport car has got through. One of them has, and another Impulse Racing in behind them. So in terms of the championship leaders, we've seen Pure Sims in the pit lane. We've got the 68 car sort of making progress, but they might well get a penalty for one of the things they did. They've already lost a lot of points today. We've already got Pure Sims are actually out, by the way. Munich Racing only 13th. 5-Star Motorsport 9th place, but they lost out on a fair few points in the first race, so it is all everywhere.
Oh, and one off the track, though, for the World of Sim Racing team. That was Alvaro Martinez Del Olmo, the 151 that is having some struggles in the World of Sim Racing BMW, trying to keep a big train of cars behind him at bay, including the Morphos by Awesome Motorsports, and of course VC Sim Racing, as we talked about. We'll take a look at that one here. Just too deep on the brakes by himself, had to cut across the chicane, took a bit of a slowdown penalty, but that's all going to be well and sorted, except maybe not, because that battle looks to be picking on up as time goes on. You can still see this one going on here. There's the lunge from Morphos up the inside. Oh! Boxing World of Sim Racing out wide, and here comes Reith Muller in the 724 trying to punch his ticket through, which would put him up to 17th place.
Everybody follows their way through, but they're Pro-Am cars, so World of Sim Racing are not too concerned by that one. They let the quartet go through, and side by side through the turn 4 fearsome corner. They go through there. Oh, the 69 and the 5 rub going through the corner. Oh, there's a contact, and 5-Star Motorsport are going to end up in the barrier through no fault of their own. No Nonsense Racing got into the back of the BMW. It ends up with a chain reaction. There's more of a chain reaction involving Rusty Spatulas. That is so unlucky for the 5 team.
That is just unfortunate for RSR as well. They were going to make that corner. Had no troubles making that. That was just a mistake from No Nonsense Racing that saw at the end of the day 5-star going into the barrier, and RSR almost got away completely unscathed from that one. Take another look.
He got a strike in the bowling alley, but I'm afraid that doesn't count for much at Oulton Park. So, yeah, Aidan Shambo may well feel the wrath of the stewards for that one, because he did cause a bit of a domino effect, I'm afraid. And it looks like Rusty Spatulas have been hit in exactly the wrong way, because their suspension has just been clipped. If you look at the way that car's behaving, it just, oh, that doesn't look normal at all. That looks horrid.
Oh yeah, he is struggling. That wheel is just struggling to kind of keep it going in the right direction. Here's Full Send Racing at RSR with G Performance. Ovando trying to keep Hereford at bay. And how about a look from Impulse Race up the inside of the Mag Performance Machine to make up another position. So great look for them to continue to punch their way back up through this field. And that puts Impulse now up to 4th place, which is, I believe, about the highest they've been so far in Race 2 overall.
I think that is correct. Mag Performance still falling back and falling into the clutches of Project Dynamic, who are looking to take a 6th race victory in a row in that Pro-Am category. Westwood Racing Esports still 3rd place in an AM car, which is absolutely a wonderful drive for them. See if they can hold on to a good place. I reckon they might be able to get top 10 here in this one. Their pace is very good. So, yeah, let's hope for their sake that they can hold on to it. But, of course, it doesn't matter because their next rival is down in 20th. So, they do have a huge lead, I guess, in that respect. But either way, it'd be nice for them to stay up there at least. So many battles going on, so many trains like this, and Rusty Spatula's just trying to hang on to the pit window by the looks of things. We commented on how badly handling their car is, but you can't come in yet and make your mandatory pit stop. They're waiting another 4 minutes and just trying to not crash into anybody at this point.
That's a wise maneuver. You see backing off to allow Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport through up into the large corner. Just kind of run your own race at the moment. Kind of try to see if you can maybe settle and try it again. Definite suspension damage on the machine. You can see a crab just down the front straightaway there. It's not by much, but that could be just enough to cause a major collision. I tell you right now, Rife Motor's probably feeling a little bit nervous behind with the VEC Sim Racing 724 BMW. Not to mention the Impulse and Simtech Motorsport Lamborghini and Audis right behind him as well. So for Tuomo Cephala, it's kind of all falling apart, hasn't it, for his race. But Sebastian Reifmuller just has to try to work his way through and hope that he isn't taken out in the process.
Yeah, I'd be feeling very nervous if I was the VEC Sim Racing car at the moment, because even pulling out of the way is a difficult thing for Rusty Spatulas at the moment. Simtech get on the grass, oh dear, through the hairpin. As Aidan Shambo was overtaken by the Impulse Racing car, and RSR by G Performance get through on Maniti Racing. So many overtakes happening all at once, you need about 10 pairs of eyes at the moment. Going into Hislops, both of those were, by the way. So nearly there. 2 laps to go, and Rusty Spatulas will be able to come into the pit lane. There's one of the passes, or the result of one. The Lamborghini in front of the Porsche, and Shambo is now down to 9th position behind the Impulse Racing car. And speaking of that team, the 63 gets into 3rd position ahead of Westwood Racing Esports. Now can try and chase down the leaders, I guess, but Ronin Academy and Team RSO are absolutely gone. Mag Performance have finally been overtaken by Team RSO by 5 stars, so Project Dynamic have now got a clear sight on their Pro-Am leaders and their main rivals standing in their way for another Pro-Am victory.
And here you can see Aidan Shambo still closing that gap up on Impulse Racing's 2.57 entry, and might be able to get a good run here through the Shell Oil's hairpin. Maybe not quite, though. Looks like the Lamborghini was a lot better on corner exit, and that puts Shambo back by a long ways. He is not going to be nearly close to have that look up into the Hislops hairpin. Might have to try again next lap, but he's going to have to definitely kind of restack and try again. He's got to find some more pace in that Porsche.
Yeah, he definitely has. Normally associate Porsches with good traction as well, given the way where their engines are, it used to be. But no, not on that occasion. Impulse Racing, hold on. 8th position this battle is for. About 15 seconds down on the leaders. And about 1 more lap until they'll be able to come into the pit lane as well. It's nearly that time already for us to begin to come into the pit lane. And some teammates are going to be embarking on the racetrack again, thinking, what on earth is going on here? Because it's been absolutely crazy. 5-Star Motorsport trying to recover. Doesn't seem to be too damaged, actually, that car. Full Send Racing have been overtaken, and yeah, they didn't seem too difficult, actually, for 5-Star. So that is a strange one. It's quite a big hit, and they've not got much damage at all, but Munich Racing have got a seemingly small amount of damage, and they are suffering quite a bit from it.
Sometimes it's where the damage is on the car, right? I mean, if the hit is a bit more square, the damage is actually usually mitigated a little bit because it's kind of more spaced out over the whole car. So you might be down a couple horsepower, but apart from that, you know, not much damage. And the problem is when you hit these walls on an angle, that's what really bends the suspensions around. It kind of rips wheels out of place. So it depends on how you kind of hit the walls as well. If you hit it more straight on or even side on, it's usually a lot less, I guess, worse than if you were to hit it, you know, back into it at an angle, which is obviously a much more common thing to see.
The battle for the lead is the closest it's ever been at the moment. Just 3 tenths of a second between Tanguy van der Veege and also Cedric Nebelschek. The battle for first is on. The pit window is open, but these two stay out because they are in clean air at the moment, with Impulse Racing closing them both down in the Lamborghini. Now RSO begin to apply the pressure, and time is on their side. More than half an hour to go. A big gap to those behind. It's a very favourable position that they find themselves in here is for RSO. As we see our first pit stop happening, Mag Performance Junior team are into the pit lane now.
And also RSR by G Performance, one of those entries is now down to the pit lane as well. So the time continues to run out for a couple of these guys out here in the field, but they would have had just opened this last time by, so it will be open for the next 9 minutes or so before this is done and dusted. You wonder if Nebelschek will try to go for the undercut here, try to maybe get out in clean air and gap the race leader at that point in the Lamborghini. Probably wouldn't be the worst of ideas, but at the same time, you put yourself up into the lead and then pit first. That almost guarantees you're going to be coming well back out into the race lead when everything cycles through.
Through they go again. Nebelschek just applying the pressure. And comparatively, these two are in clean air compared to what we've seen so far down there. But Nebelschek might feel like he can go quicker here. So the temptation would be to come in, but I would certainly leave it for another 5 minutes here if I was him, because they are in clean air and it's important around here to get that so that you're not involved in whatever we've seen over the last 20 minutes on our screens. So we may well see this situation for the next 5 minutes or so, but I wouldn't be waiting till the very, very end for this car to come in. Certainly I would try and come in on a different lap.
You'd also seen one of the Audis worked his way past yet another one of the Audis. That was the Team RSO machine. One of the pro drivers working his way past the AM driver of Westwood Racing Esports, so there was no issues in that battle. Just a pro car overtaking an AM car. It's usually a lot more civilized than some of the pro battles we've seen so far over the course of the day. So Nebelschek going to try to take that race lead away from Tanguy van der Veege. In the Ronin Academy, a Lamborghini looked for the inside, but too far back. I think at that point just kind of wanted to break his own draft a little bit there, right? And make sure that you're not going too fast, that you're going to overshoot and run over the guy in front of you.
Well, yeah, absolutely. As we've seen already this race, Aiden Chapeau, etc. We saw that a little bit earlier. But through Druids they go, through turn 15 and over the crest into the final corner with 32 minutes remaining in this race. Still nearly 7 seconds of a gap behind them, which is comfortable. And now Ronin Academy blink first. I wonder why that would be. Trying to cover off an undercut maybe, but they better hope that they don't find themselves in traffic here, because otherwise this strategy will unfurl completely as we see two championship contenders now get together. Munich Racing versus 5-Star Motorsport. All of a sudden, that Munich car does look a little bit damaged on the rear end. Didn't quite see how that got picked up, but it does look like it would affect the handling.
I have a feeling that would have come from the early race checkups here when everybody was kind of still stacked up together and you were going 2-3 wide everywhere you could find on the racetrack, because he already had that damage. Really, we got down to the oil shells hairpin So likely those start line checkers that I mentioned just before the green flag dropped. You see Adam Isaacson also waiting in the wings in the 5-star Motorsports HyperX machine. The Porsche being very patient here on the Mini-T Racing Audi.
That's Rusty Spatulas off towards the inside. What on earth are they doing there? How have they got there as well is the other question. But what a miserable race for them. After such promise in the first race, I thought they were going to do something in this one, but apparently it's not been their day. Down the inside for 5-star Motorsport, and 7th place is going to be there. There's been a cooperation from Maniti, but that's going to be very encouraging for them after losing so many points in the previous race. I believe they managed to lose 37 points to their rivals in the last race. They're beginning to gain some back.
We take a look at what happened to Rusty Spatulas through the island bend, and way too wide, and that's going to be the tire bearers for sure. This is going to be a hard hit right to the side. Kind of hit him with the rear first, and that's why we saw him pulled off to the side there, waiting for a good opportunity to try to rejoin the racing surface. So that's unfortunate for Rusty Spatulas. Their day goes from bad to worse. One driver that has been kind of looking on the up and up, though, as No Nonsense Racing is into pit road, is, of course, that driver right up in front of these guys in this battle here for what is now going to be 6th place on track. Adam Isaacson of the 5-star Motorsports machine has been doing quite a good job so far today. I mean, earlier today, found himself up in 7th place so far for race number 1. They still, I believe, have to come down pit road themselves. So we'll have to see what this is going to mean for them and where they'll cycle out. But overall, could still be a good points haul for Isaacson.
Yeah, definitely could. So we're over halfway through this pit stop window now, through this cycle. And as you can see, not many people have been in. Just that No Nonsense Racing have been in, but I almost don't believe that, given where they are. They're ahead of Mag Performance somehow, and RSR by G Performance, although they were before, I think. So that makes sense, but yeah, I wasn't expecting them to see them in front of the 111, I must admit. Either way, clearly they have been in at some point. I say they, it's just Aidan Shabolt here today, who's driving on his own, and RSO now coming to the pit lane by the looks of things, unless they've gone off. I think they are just in the pit lane, making their pit stop. So this could be the race coming up in a few moments' time. This could decide the race, this pit stop, as the RSR car is very close to the 111, but not able to get through for the moment. Be very interesting to see if Ronin Academy can overhaul RSO here, or whether they will come out behind them in this one. I think RSO will come out quite a long way in front.
So Robin Haas and the Team RSL machine just approaching the exit of the pit lane now, and he is going to get out a long way from the Lamborghini. Could be a bit closer, yes, but the Ronin Academy Lamborghini too far back to mount the charge. The overcut works for the 197.
I think in the end, Cedric Nibusek, who was at the helm at the time, was just a bit quicker than the Ronin Academy car, but the chance is coming straight away. Oh, that was a bit of weaving around, going towards turn 4. Cold tyres, of course, getting used to the car, whereas the Lamborghini's all warmed up and not fresh from the pits, but that was the opportunity there. I get the feeling that there's not going to be another one here, and RSO now can begin to control the race. But yeah, that was good pit stop strategy there from RSO. They recognised that they were quicker. They just needed to come in on a different lap to the Lamborghini. They gave it a few laps, and in the end they executed their plan perfectly, and that was a very, very well executed overtake, I guess. There was no on-track business to speak of, but the pit strategy was very good.
And with just 2 minutes left to go in this pit window here before it closes again, you can see pretty much everybody else that was in battles coming down to pit road. Oh, there's a bit of a squeeze on the Ferrari up into the Hislop's chicane. Matteo Carbonari and the Mag Performance Junior team forced to bow out as Oscar Koper, the RSR G Performance machine, going to punch his ticket through into 15th on course. So that was a good run there. Of course, that's a pro car on a Pro-Am car, so technical position on track, yes, but not points-wise.
No, not points are not assigned overall, in case you weren't aware. It's all done based on the class.
Oh!
The two leaders go
Mag Performance
through.
Junior is off.
Oh dear. We haven't seen the result really of whether Project Mag Junior. Back performance, well, I can't see them that they're off.
They went off over in the final hairpin, lost out on a good chunk of time and, in fact, a position. They lost another one to Beniti out of the pits. We'll take a look at this one here, just by themselves, I think, just losing the back end on corner entry, carrying too much speed and well into the gravel.
Wow, yeah, there it is. Well, that really does set up the battle for the lead in Pro-Am. We've also got one going on in the lead of the race, and Impulse Racing 63 look like they might get involved as well, so it's all going on at the front of two of the categories at the very least. Westwood Racing Esports still 6th place. It's going to be 5th place in the overall standings, even in an AM car, which is a very good effort from them indeed. But this is going to be the battle for the lead. How to say, when Nibusek was behind that Lamborghini, he looked a lot stronger, and I thought that when Robin Haas got in and when that RSO car got in front, that they were going to drive away from Ronin Academy, but it has not worked out like that at all. It's still nose to tail, and they're both being caught by Impulse.
And the Torque Freak Racing Porsche is just out in front of them right as the pit road closes. You can see Team RSO flashing the headlights furiously, desperately wanting Antti Salminen to get out of the way. Oh, that's going to check them up big time, though. And here comes Conan Werner, the Ronin Academy Lamborghini. And once again, it's got to be a very wide Audi to keep the 79 car at bay, thinking about maybe the outside to the oil shells hairpin as Robin Haas goes offensive. It'll be the over-under for the 79 Lamborghini. Could have the run here down to the Hislop chicane.
He's got a bit of overspeed, but is he close enough is the question. He's getting closer onto the rear wing of that Audi, not given much room. Oh, there's contact! There's contact, and he's held onto it somehow.
Wow.
He's had to go through the escape road. Oh my word, that's going to be talked about afterwards. Ronin Academy and Team RSO come together, and they are not going to be happy with each other. Look at the amount of slowdown that Conan Byrne has got. I don't think for a second he was given enough room here, Conan Byrne. He was trying to go on the outside line. There wasn't quite enough space, but I don't think he was given enough space, really. The RSO car was fading back to the racing line. Look at this camera shot here. He's coming back towards the racing line, and I don't think he's entitled to do so at that point. He's picked the defensive line. He shouldn't be coming back to the racing line there, in my opinion. And all of a sudden, we've got a very different look to the front of this race.
I mean, the typical order of things on a road course race, especially in GT cars like this, right, is you get that one blocking maneuver, and he had that one move. He was offline already, coming on down towards the Hillslop chicane, and he already, you had seen that Tech now had made that look to potentially go around the outside line. Sorry, Conan Werner made the look to go back around to the outside line, to the racing line, and he was like within millimeters of having his nose in there. And I have to agree with you. I don't think you're quite entitled at that point to cut back across the racing line, especially that close to a braking zone. I'll tell you what, though, that was a brilliant save for the 79 car. I mean, that could have been so much worse. Talk about wheel work.
He did hold on to it very well. Unfortunately, the unfortunate part is that he had to in the first place. But yeah, he did hold on to it very well. We'll give him that. Now then, what can they do? Can they get back to Robin Haas here? Were they being caught purely because Haas was watching the mirrors a bit too much, had to take a few defensive lines here and there? Or was the Impulse Racing car genuinely quicker? And can Ronin Academy tuck in and get back towards the front with them as well? Because if they can, then we've got a 3-car fight developing. But for the moment, the gap is nearly 2 seconds. Further back, we saw Munich Racing overtake RSR by G Performance 69 car for a top 10 place, which they're now into. So not losing too many points to their rivals, the 68 and the 5, who are both gaining, but not too many. I think if things stay as they are, and unless there's any wild changes in the next few moments, that Munich Racing are going to leave the British Isles as championship leaders.
And of course, you still have battles going on further throughout the field as well, right? I mean, you got the battle for 10th and 11th overall that was started to pick on up, and that swapped hands this last lap. I'm also keeping eyes on Project Dynamic and Matt Performance Jr. team, the 111 Ferrari, has so far been struggling to keep the Lamborghini behind them at bay, and couldn't even see a swap here as Dynamic try the inside of one. How about a battle further between two pro cars, though? The Audi and Beniti Racing losing out again to Brandon Roseberg, the RSRG Performance BMW, and this time that'll put Beniti all the way down to 11th place outside of the top 10. And just behind them, there is the Project Dynamic Lamborghini. Tried the inside of turn 1, didn't quite work. Tried the inside again of the island bend. Oh, the Ferrari runs wide, trying to make space, and then that almost in turn cost Project Dynamic. Oh, Full Send thought about it as well.
They really are living up to their name today, but this is the battle for the Pro-Am lead between Mag Performance Junior Team and Project Dynamic, who've won the first 5 races, looking to go 6 out of 6. Into Hislops, here he goes, inside line. Is there room for the both of them? They're going to try and go side by side. There isn't room. The Lamborghini goes through. The the Pro-Am lead changes with Project Dynamic. It's a familiar face back at the front. Mag Performance held on for a very long time, and they held on respectively, but they've not been able to hold on for the extra 20 minutes that they needed to. And Project Dynamic are back to the front. 12th position overall and first position in Pro-Am once again.
And now you can see guys like Full Send Racy trying to potentially have a run up as well. You saw him try to look for the inside potentially through the Druids corner. It didn't quite work out though, and he had to back out. That cost him in a massive run of what could have been a lunge up into the Lodge corner at that final hairpin. Didn't quite work out for him. 6th place swaps hands as well as Ada Shadbolt made up the pass through the island bend on Tim Spesser, the Westwood Racing Esports crew. In their number 87 Audi. So looks like Shadbolt continues to work his way up, and at this point I think he's out of a shout for a race win.
Yeah, probably at this stage. I think everybody other than the top 3 are, given the amount of time that we have left. But Impulse Racing, despite Ronin Academy are not really able to make too many inroads, but they could get there late on. Impulse Racing though, in a straight fight with Team RSO, look quicker, and so we may well have a race on to the end of this one between the two of them. And judging by the first battle, how that went with RSO and Ronin Academy, we're in for a very tasty one, with Impulse now involved as well, trying to get through.
And Roseboro, all of the back of Maximilian Fritz as well, the 69 car, the battle for 9th place, and that has the potential to go all sorts of wrong with how close the BMW is up on the back of the number 5 Porsche 911 GT3. So you still got all these fights picking up everywhere over the track, and we're now in, of course, the final third. Oh, the Ferrari of the 111 off the course. He'll lose out to the Full Send Racing BMW as well. So goes to show you have to always be on it. This is going to open up the door for one of the Audis to look up the inside lines. Not one of the 5-stars it is. Oh, and a second off. Here comes the Morpheus Porsche as well.
Deary me, it's getting worse for the Ferrari, I'm afraid. 111 car, they dropped down 16th position for them now, I'm afraid. I think the 256 is another Pro-Am car coming up next. This is a moment. Robin Haas holds on to it, but he loses a lot of time, and all of a sudden the race for the lead is back on. We've got 3 cars covered by a second, 18 minutes to go. HyperX GT Sprint Series racing, Oulton Park. This is going to be very, very good.
Yeah, just saw as well the swap for P9 as Maximilian Fritz at 5-Star Motorsports had to yield from the Hislops chicane. Brandon Roseboro was just asserting dominance in the RSR by G Performance BMW up the inside. And there you can see your top 3 drivers all under a blanket with under 20 minutes remaining. Right on board with Linus Tech now at the Impulse Racing number 63 entry. Conan Werner just in behind at the Ronin Academy Lamborghini, has been doing such a phenomenal job so far to maintain his podium position throughout this race. But with Robin Haas and the Team RSO car up in front, had a 2-second lead. And of course, that's down to just half a second now. And one more mistake, and RSO could lose the lead, and they might not be able to get it back.
I don't think they will be, if indeed that does happen. But I'm also not convinced that Linus Tech now will be able to get through on Robin Haas. You saw the way he defended from Conor Verne. It was Conan Verne, excuse me, who was, well, right about here, down into Hislops. It got a little bit too close for comfort. So will Tech now get his nose in front in this situation? Will he get his whole car in front and drive off away? Because you're right, if he does get through, then I can't see RSO really responding. But will we get to that situation is another situation, because with just over 15 minutes to go, it's not an impossible distance to be defending from the front. If we had an hour and 15 to go, then you'd be having question marks, but we haven't. there's not that long to go, and it is certainly possible that Haas can defend his way to victory here.
You still see Linus Tech now trying to apply pressure to Robin Haas. The gap is closer, half a second, down to just 2/10. Extends to about a quarter of a second on the exit of turn 1, but this is, of course, to be expected as the gap ebbs and flows. But one more good lap like that from Linus Tech now, and he'll be all over the team RSO 197. 3/10 apart for them, with coming up to 15 minutes to go in about 40 seconds time here. You can see Robin Haas having to do everything he can to keep Linus Tech now at bay, but one good drafting run out of one of these sharper corners and it could all be over.
Yeah, absolutely. Up towards Hislops again, and it's a good run for the Impulse Racing car. Look at this, on the outside line, here he comes. Linus Tech now is going to try and go through on Robin Haas, who's got the inside line. We've seen this before. Neither of them are going to yield. Side by side into the chicane. Oh, the Impulse Racing car has to go across the grass, back onto it again. Ronan Academy slipped through, and Robin Haas survives another attack at that chicane. Impulse Racing lose a lot of time out of that one. There's just not enough room for two cars by the looks of it.
There probably would have been enough room, but with Robin Haas being on the inside line and entering at such a high speed, he was entering with the speed, right, as if he was going in there single file, not double file. So Impulse Race could see coming a mile off. He was not going to be able to leave the space for them, so they tried to just keep it steady and didn't quite work out for them. They ended up losing a boatload of time, so unfortunate for Impulse Race, but I think it was a wise move to back out there because they could see it coming what was going to happen if they didn't.
Well, it's very harsh that they've had to lose 3 seconds to it, because look how far back they are now. They really needed Ronan Academy to apply the pressure to RSO, but they made their own mistake through the final corner. So now all of a sudden the gap has really opened up. This is, that might well be the Simtech car. It is indeed Simtech Motorsport, Standard Schnell, who's now in the number 7. 13th position. I believe that was that wasn't quite the car that went off on its own at Nickenbrook earlier on, but still a good recovery, especially considering they were on their roof at the end of lap 1, race 1. They're very happy with the 13th position here in this race, I'd imagine. It's certainly going a lot better than race 1 did.
It's been a solid run so far for the Simtech Motorsports crew. I mean, you obviously could have gone better with race 1. I don't believe they scored any points down in race number 1, but obviously you come around to race 2 and you managed to scrounge together 13th place for starting 34th on the grid. That is not a bad result by any stretch of the means. They will be happy with that one. It's a solid recovery drive, working your way up through about half the field. It's definitely not a result to be disappointed about, and it's a good, I would say, building platform to move on into round number 4 with.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 weeks time, Belle Isle will be the next circuit. Going to be a very tasty race through there with these guys. But yeah, we'll see how it pans out on the streets of Detroit. With only 13 minutes to go here at Oulton Park. We will be returning to the UK a little bit later on in the season as well, with the round at Brands Hatch, the penultimate round of the fall season anyway.
Oh, whoa, 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 look out, full
dear.
send! Oh, hard into the wall, and look out, back performance. Oh, Impulse gets clipped, and that's going to be a hard hit for the 256.
Oh, I feel that World of Sim Racing might have gotten involved in that as well. Impulse Racing are not going to be very pleased with full send racing. It's a very dangerous corner and a very difficult one to see. And oh dear, they've gone back to the pit lane to retirement for the 256, I'm afraid. Oh no. It was bound to happen at some point. Here is what happened. We just saw it in the background of the shot. Leon Erger goes a bit wide, loses control, spins, has a very long accident, spins around. Mag Performance managed to avoid, and he just tries to get out of the way. He is trying to get out of the way, I'm afraid. But I'm afraid the Impulse Racing car was already coming, and they were innocent bystanders in that one. Here's the 256. Oh dear, you've got a feel for them, you really do, and they get caught up in it. World of Sim Racing managed to avoid it all, but oh, you've got to feel very sorry for Impulse Racing there for being an innocent bystander in that one and getting caught up in it.
Good gravy. That is not at all how we wanted to see that play out. And at the same, I understand, you know, Erger wanting to kind of, you know, get out of the way. It's an understandable reaction, and it's one I think a lot of us would have as well. But sometimes it is better to just kind of sit still and wait for there to be a gap, because having waited for those two cars to come by, he would have been able to do that. There would have been a problem. So it's a learning lesson, though, right? I mean, you want to get out of the way, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes, in trying to, you know, get yourself out of the way, you only end up becoming more of a hazard. I think that was a prime situation of that right there.
Yeah, it's not a nice situation to be in, really, being placed in that position on the road and not really being able to see what's going on. So yeah, he's just got a very unfortunate moment for everybody involved. Just Ronin Academy get through on one of the BMWs, lap BMW. They did make another mistake through turn 1, by the way, this lap, which has put them nearly 2 seconds behind RSO. Robin Haas might hold on for this, having not actually done that much defending. But Ronin Academy are going to be very unhappy with that because of the way, or because of what happened down into Hislops, you would say. And of course, we've got Team RSO by 5-star, the number 298 just behind, rounding off a very good day for RSO. But also, if he can get involved with these two, then he could try and help his teammates, you know, try and win. If if Niels Benedict gets involved with Technow and Vern, then maybe he can kind of take some of the attention away from Robin Haas leading.
It's a certain possibility, but he has to, of course, close up there first, and with under 10 minutes to go, that might be a little bit of an ask. But I have to see how this battle could play out. Between the two of them, it's about another 2 seconds separating them. Project Dynamic, the 21 car, dropping down the timing screens, and he has had a spin. I wondered if he was in pit road, if he had it off. It looks like he did have it off at the Lodge hairpin. We'll take a look at this one here.
Final corner, Pro-Am leader goes for a spin on his own. Oh dear. So, all of a sudden the battle is back on again in Pro-Am, and it looks like Mag Performance might well be able to take their first victory of the season. The first victory not taken by Project Dynamic purely through a mistake of their very own. That could be very, very disappointing for them as we look at the battle for second place once again. Now the problem that they have, are they going to fall into line and work with each other here, or are Ronin Academy and Impulse Racing going to battle? Because I think even one semblance of battling here is going to end the charge for a race win. But let's see how they treat each other. 2.3 seconds, the gap's getting a little bit large for this stage of the race.
And that's why I have a feeling we're going to be seeing these guys starting to duke it out if Impulse Racing can get a bit closer, although losing a boatload of time through turn 1 there just from being that much slower through the corner. But if Linus Techno can close up to Conan Wern, we can expect to see them start to duke it out. I mean, at this point in time, it's a bit far up the field to be able to go for it. Although that being said, it was 2.6 seconds at the start of that. I've been looking at that. It's already been closed in by a whole second as it is. So Robin Haas starting to make a couple of more mistakes.
Yeah, he has. He's dropped time for seemingly no reason. Well, not a reason that I saw. But anyway, so that is a weird one. But either way, 1.5 seconds. Maybe this is still on. 1.4. Maybe there is still a chance. Just under 8 minutes to go. And you can see the top 4 in one camera shot just there as we were looking back towards the all-important chicane, which may be in action once again here in the next few moments. About 1.5 minute lap times, just under that. So I reckon, what have we got? Maybe 7 laps? No, not 7 laps to go. That's terrible maths. Maybe 5 laps to go.
And with 5 to go next time by at the line, from what I'm guessing.
Let's see if if they battle really hard towards the very final laps, then definitely. Yeah, it seems to be that it's going to go that way at this stage. Either way, let's not forget Robin Haas's 197 was the car to underfuel in the last race. Surely they're not going to be making that mistake again, but you can see exactly how it would happen. You know, just because it's... because you never know how long the race is going to be in terms of laps, do you? So you've got to kind of guess, and sometimes that calculation can be wrong. But if I were them, I'd put maybe 2 laps extra in for this next race just to be sure, and I'm sure they won't be making that mistake again. It'll be pushed to the back of their mind, and in a roundabout kind of way, it's helped them to win this race, or helped them to be in the conversation for winning this race.
Absolutely. I mean, they've been able to kind of be able to be up there at the front throughout the course of this thing since they had that major struggle early on. They didn't have to start down at 20th place, like the No Nonsense Racing Porsche has. And that No Nonsense Racing Porsche, I expected to maybe be up in the top 5, but they have not been able to crack that all race long, sitting down in 6th place, another 3 seconds back. They're not going to be even close to being in the shout for a race win today. So you never know. That fuel mistake could have helped them out to get up here and win this race too, but at the same time, how much would it have cost them in race 1, right? Is the points off from a race win enough to potentially make up that gap?
Well, that's the tricky thing. I think this race, this track so far has been the most difficult in terms of making your way through the traffic, in terms of, the reverse grid race. Getting through all that has been the most difficult here. Because if you look back to the Hungaroring and the Barber Motorsports Park results, the guys at the front in one race are quite similar in the next. But here, it has been a complete change as Project Dynamic do make their way through. And World of Sim Racing, they are on a mission. Their 100% record is under threat, and 1.4 seconds separates them from another Pro-Am victory. You would be very disappointed to see that streak end because of a spin on your own at the final corner. So they're going to do everything they can to try and overtake that Ferrari in the final minutes. We might well have 2 class victory kind of changes in the final 5 minutes here. There's very tight margins at the top of both.
Yeah, the only problem is there's 1.2 seconds between them and about 3.5 laps. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough for them to work their way up. If they got under 5 minutes to reel in 1.2 seconds, they are going to be having to set some stomper laps here to try to run down that 111 Ferrari up ahead for another Pro-Am victory, which would be the 4th one in a row for them. Actually, check that. That'd be the 5th or 6th one at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting final part of this race. Under a second, very briefly there at the front of the race for the first time in a while. And Ronin Academy and Impulse Racing both absolutely nose to tail. They're both close in attendance, but with 3 laps to go, there might not be long enough left. So there's not going to be many opportunities to try and get through here for Ronin Academy, if there are any at all. But I mean, will they still be going for a move? Hislop's has definitely been the best overtaking opportunity, but will they still go for it, considering what happened to them when they went to the outside there last time?
That's the big question, right? I mean, I'm not sure if I would want to take that risk, especially knowing it's the same guys up in front that pushed you off the first time. We'll have to wait and see how this battle could play out, especially if Impulse Racing manages to reel in that gap to the 79. But with the gap extending out to 1.3, I'm still thinking it's not going to be enough. I mean, at this point in time, they would have to be, we're talking here about 7/10 quicker every lap consistently in order to close that gap and take the lead away. It just can't happen.
Well, it's a good run here from Impulse. I don't know if they'll want to go through here or not. Are they giving up on any designs of winning a race here? 1.5 seconds, 2 laps to go. It does seem like too tall of an order at this stage. You can see how hard they're pushing, but I don't think it's going to be enough. It's going to be a lot closer in the battle for the Pro-Am lead. Here it is, going up the hill towards turn 15, and it might well happen now. Project Dynamic down the inside of Mag Performance, and here we go. Oh, it's close between the 2 leaders, and have to back out of it in the Lamborghini in the end. The Ferrari stays in front, the 111 defends from the front, but with 2 laps to go, the pressure is mounting, and it might well be too much for them. Slide out the final corner. They hold on for now, but there's still 2 laps to go, so let's see if they can till the very end. Through turn 1 for the penultimate time, and the pressure is starting to be piled on.
the Lamborghinis have consistently been so much faster than the Ferraris, not just through this race, but all season long. And Project Dynamic trying to utilize every last horsepower that they have underneath that 21 machine to close up the gap to the 111. And look at how close they are coming around to the oil shells hairpin for the penultimate time. Oh, but it's a bobble from Project Dynamic that sees them lose half a second easily up towards the 111. That might have done them in.
It may well, yeah, it may well have done. A lap and a half to go. And the opportunity for them to go for it here is gone, which is going to be the real hurtful thing about it. But there's still one more opportunity. Only one left for Ronin Academy now. It is under a second, 0.8 of a second. Robin Haas is holding on for the moment. I think he's going to run out of laps here there in the 79. It's been a valiant effort from Conan Vernon. I think he was unfairly treated last time he tried to make an overtake on Robin Haas, but this time, oh, there it is! Project Dynamic down the inside of Mac Performance, and there it is, finally! They get back to the lead in Pro-Am to restore their 100% record, to try and win 6 out of 6, getting onto the final lap. They make the overtake, as both of these guys are slowing down in the Lamborghini. What on earth is going on here? On board with Linus Tech now, trying to get through on Vern up in front, but there's not many overtaking opportunities remaining. We've seen that move for the Pro-Am lead at the final corner. Maybe we'll see one here once again at the final corner. Is the good run good enough for the Impulse Racing car? He's going to look every which way. Outside line. Vern squeezes in. Oh, it's not quite enough. Linus Tech now doesn't quite have enough. But it's going to be Team RSO in the 197. And Robin Haas who's going to take the victory in race 2 here at Oulton Park. The HyperX GT Sprint Series delivers another fantastic race. Ronin Academy second ahead of Impulse Racing in third. RSO again in fourth. And that change for Pro-Am looks like it's confirmed. Project Dynamic goes 6-0. 6 wins, no losses. And you'd think it was a football tournament or something, but no. This is proper racing, and this is domination from Project Dynamic, who have won again by the looks of things. If they can just go through one final corner, this is where they came unstuck a few laps ago, but no such issues this time. They hold on by under a second ahead of Mac Performance, who put on a good show but weren't able to quite hold on in the end. A flash of the lights, a little bit of frustration in there, but I'm sure a bit of admiration as well for their opponents. But another great race in the HyperX GT Sprint Series here by IVRA. And, yeah, wow. Not a big margin at the front. Robin Haas just about holding on.
Unbelievable stuff today. I mean, I talked about how Barber Motorsports Park was one of the more exciting races we've seen so far this season. Well, Oulton Park might just top that crown here. We'll have to see, of course, what comes around at Detroit, but I think so far this has got to be one of the best performances we've seen so far all year, and there's still quite a bit to go.
There is indeed. Robin Haas, though, can celebrate this victory because RSO have won by 1.5 seconds ahead of Ronin Academy and Impulse Racing. The other RSO car rounding out a good day for them in fourth. Impulse Racing also fifth position in the 257. No nonsense racing after their win in the first race. Sixth place in this one. Oscar T. Coper recovers to seventh after starting from outside the top 30. The AM winner Westwood Racing Esports finishing 8th place overall is a monumental result for them. A very, very well done to them. 69 RSR car finished in 9th ahead of Maximilian Fritz in the 5-star motorsport Porsche inside the top 10. Then in 11th position it was Maniti Racing Championship leaders who just finished ahead of Simtech Motorsport. Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport were next ahead of Pro-Am winners Project Dynamic. Mag Performance just missing out in the end. Water Sim Racing were second in AM and 16th overall. Leon Erger eventually came home 17th even after his big crash towards the end for Full Send Racing. VEC Sim Racing, Neobe by Awesome Motorsport and Kazar Sim Racing rounded out the top 20. Moving on to 21st, we have VC Sim Racing and V-Racers up next. Talk Freak Racing, these guys are lapped down by the way. BSTV Esports as well as Vector by RSR, who were many laps down, as were Impulse Racing, Kazar Sim Racing, Rusty Spatulas, after all their issues. Team Oblivion Racing, World of Sim Racing, Olympus Esports, Pure Sims Esports, Cube Racing and Olympus Esports again, who did not have a good time of things, I'm afraid, in this race. A very chaotic start to it, but it did really, it managed to get itself sorted out in the end, and for that we can be very glad, and Robin Hass will probably be very glad about that as well. We'll welcome in our race winner, the Team RSO driver Robin Hass from the 197 team. Welcome along, Robin, it's good to have you here. Congratulations on the race victory. Talk us through the final half an hour or so that you were in there for, because you had a fierce battle with the two Lamborghinis in behind.
Yeah, hello. First of all, thank you. Yeah, I can't find the right words for the win. I'm sweating off all positions of my body. I'm so sweat, and yeah, I'm so.
But we just lost him for a moment. He's just turned the sound off on TeamSpeak.
Oh,
so we just
sorry.
There we go. Sorry, carry on. You're all right now.
Sorry. Yeah. I have not the words for this win. Great work for my teammate Cedric has had a big huge experience. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry.
That's all right. It's certainly a big victory, and yeah, it was a dramatic one as well. Talk us through the incident with the Ronin Academy Lamborghini coming down towards the chicane. There was a lot of weaving around, a lot of defending going on. The two of you made a little bit of contact. Obviously, Ronin Academy ended up losing out quite a lot in the end. But what was your view on the little coming together you had?
Yeah. I don't know. Sorry.
No, so that's all right. I suppose. I guess one final thing: is there anybody you'd like to thank? Anyone at the team or anything that you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I thank my teammate Cedric and the whole team. And yeah, I hope the next races getting better and better. And yeah. That's it.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks very much for coming to join us, and congratulations on the victory tonight, Robin.
Thank you. There
we go, Robin Hass of the RSO team joining us after winning in the pro category and indeed overall. And now we didn't quite get to speak to them after race one and between the two races. However, Nolan, we've now joined as well by the Pro-Am winners from that race and indeed the first race.
DBR, so that will make it now 6 for 6 for you, Ibrahim, and I tell you what, that has got to feel very, very good for the Project Dynamic crew. You're going to set to lock this championship out early for the Pro-Am category at this rate.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. That's what we're trying to do. Second race, at the end, I made it a bit harder than it had to be, but yeah, happily we did a good job today, and yeah, we managed to secure both wins again. So after all, yeah, a good evening, even if the end was a bit sketchy, but yeah.
Well, despite it being a little bit sketchy for you, you still managed to pull off and maintain your 100% track record at the moment. And I'll tell you what, you had a good performance overall today. I mean, 6th place over in race number 1, certainly nothing to frown about. What did you think kind of helped you guys to get such a good position up in that first race?
Well, first of all, we kind of we didn't take the best strategy by going to the top 5 in the warm-up, so we didn't have the opportunity to put in some good laps in Q1. So yeah, our Q2 wasn't as good as we would have expected it to be. But yeah, start of the first race, I think it's mainly down to people dying left and right and us keeping out of trouble again, I guess. You can call that luck, but we are really trying not to get into trouble, and it's paid out again. So I think that's mainly down to that.
Well, keeping out of trouble is obviously part of what helps to, win races, especially in a series that can be as chaotic as this one. And speaking of chaotic races, I mean, next week up, street circuit racing at the Detroit Belle Isle. What's your take coming into that temporary street circuit?
I mean, Belle Isle is it's known to be hectic for sure, and yeah, given how it was in the previous races, I think we can expect a lot more to happen there, and we'll have to be once again, just looking for opportunities to be a bit faster first of all, and stay safe like we managed to do both races today.
Well, fingers crossed and that you'll be able to maintain that 100% record coming on over into races 7 and 8 over at Detroit Belle Isle. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us up here in the booth, and well, best of luck next week then at Detroit.
Yeah, thank you guys, and just if I can have a last word, thanks to World of Sim Racing for letting us by at the end, because we really needed it. Sorry, and thanks to the whole team for supporting us again, and see you later.
No problems, Ibrahim. Pleasure having you up here. Good luck.
Yeah, there we are. We've spoken to the Pro winners, the Pro-Am winners, and we'll speak to the third place guys as well. We'll bring them in all at once because they're from the same team, Hendrik, Augustin, and also Linus Techno as well. First of all, we'll start with Linus, since you were in at the end there of race 2. It was good watching you try to get through on the RSO car. Unfortunately, you weren't able to do it, but just talk us through the moment when you really went on the attack at the chicane and you tried to make it past the Audi.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Oulton Park, it's quite difficult to pass. So my mindset kind of was the first time he makes any mistake, I'm taking the chance, because if I'm ahead, I thought I would be able to defend for the rest of the race. So he got a bit on the grass out of the hairpin, so I got a run. He gave me the outside, and yeah, my only chance to try to make it work was to brake super late. So I tried that, but got a bit of oversteer on the entry, and then got too scared to hit the second tire barrier and end the race there. So I decided to open the steering and cut the corner instead.
Yeah, it was probably the safer thing to do for everybody, I guess. But no, it was a good effort anyway, and it certainly made it entertaining for us, I guess. Hendrik, as well, you mentioned that it was difficult to overtake throughout the race, and you had to do a lot of that since you were starting fair amount of down the order in the second race, and you had that incident in the first race as well. What was it like coming back through the field after having that problem in race 1 after going off the road so early?
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the first race it doesn't went good. We got spun around, but yeah, we know Oulton Park is a very small track, and it can happen very fast. And then it was a task to reach top 20, to have a good position into race 2. And there, it went better than we expected, running up to top 12. And yeah, had a good position into race 2 then.
And just if I could ask you as well, because you mentioned it's a very small track and not a lot of runoff and it's very narrow. Everybody's been using those words over the last week. Belle Isle is coming up in 2 weeks. How are you feeling about going to the streets, streets of Belle Isle there?
Oh, might be a bit more difficult than this. I mean, there are voids, not that much grass that can save you. If you just got a hit, I think your car's dead, and you can end the race. I think there is a bit more of safety of all needed. Yeah,
absolutely. It's going to be a difficult one for everybody, but we wish you luck for it. But in the immediate future, I guess we'll let you go now. And just I guess one last thing to say is thanks for coming to join us, and congratulations on your podium in race 2 this evening.
Thanks for broadcasting the race.
There was Hendrik Augustin and also Linus Techno of the 63 Impulse Racing team. Good to speak to them both, and good to speak to a number of drivers after the race here at Oulton Park. A number of them not happy with how their race has gone, I suppose, but quite a lot of them very pleased, and we can be very glad about that. I have to say, I very enjoyed it as well here at Oulton Park. I keep saying at the start of the season, a lot of these tracks you're thinking, are we going to see much overtaking here? But the answer, quite comprehensively, has been yes, we're going to see loads, and it's continued on here this week.
And of course, Detroit Belle Isle comes up in, of course, like 2 weeks' time, like you were mentioned, and of course, Ewan. And, well, it's the similar question there, right? I mean, how much overtaking are we really going to see at a street circuit? Well, we've asked this question now, what, 2 weeks in a row? I have a feeling we should probably stop asking that question at this point, because we know we're going to be seeing plenty of overtaking over in Detroit.
Exactly, it's the HyperX GT Sprint Series, so, what more could you want? We'll be visiting Belle Isle in a couple of weeks' time, then Brands Hatch a fortnight after that, and rounding it off with Montreal at the end of 2021. So make sure you join us for those. They'll all be broadcasted live on Racebot TV, and we look forward to your company then. For now, though, that is it from us here at Oulton Park. It's been a wonderful event here once again. Very much enjoyed it. It's been the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series, and it has been wonderful once again. Make sure you join us in a couple of weeks' time when we head to the streets of Belle Isle. But for now, from me, Ewan O'Leary, Nolan Redpull, and Tyler Maxson, who's been behind the cameras tonight, it's goodbye for now.